The evening sun cast long shadows across the marble floors of Bancroft Manor as Nathan Reed knelt to scrub invisible stains from the immaculate surface. His worn work boots squeaked against the polished stone, calloused hands moving in the practiced rhythm of a man who had cleaned countless floors over his 15 years as a janitor. At 35, Nathan's face carried the weathered lines of someone who had shouldered more than his fair share of life's burdens. The faded blue uniform he wore hung slightly loose on his frame, a testament to the meals he'd skipped to ensure his 7-year-old daughter never went hungry. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, autumn leaves swirled across the manicured grounds of the estate. Nathan paused briefly, glancing at his battered watch, a gift from his late wife, Rebecca. 6:30 already. If he hurried, he could finish the main hall before heading home to Queens, where Lily would be waiting, homework spread across their tiny kitchen table, eager to share stories from her day at school. The sound of elevator doors sliding open broke the silence. Nathan kept his head down, focusing on his task as soft footsteps approached. Designer heels clicked rhythmically against the marble, stopping just at the edge of his peripheral vision. "You're Nathan, correct? Nathan Reed?" The voice carried the unmistakable cadence of old money, soft yet commanding. Nathan looked up to find Olivia Bancroft watching him with curious green eyes. At 24, she carried herself with the poise of someone who had never known want. Her emerald dress probably cost more than his monthly rent, her manicured fingers absently turning the diamond bracelet on her wrist. "Yes, Miss Bancroft, I'm almost finished here." Nathan quickly averted his gaze. In his experience, when the wealthy noticed you, it rarely meant anything good. He'd learned that lesson through years of being invisible to the people whose homes and offices he cleaned. Bancroft Industries owned half the buildings in Manhattan, and Olivia was the youngest member of the family's board of directors. Facts Nathan knew only because the cleaning staff often traded stories about the family they served but never truly knew. "Good, I have a proposition for you." Nathan's throat tightened. He needed to pick up Lily from their neighbor soon. Mrs. Rodriguez was kind enough to watch her after school, but he hated imposing on the elderly woman's generosity. Besides, Lily had been fighting a lingering cough ever since her bout with pneumonia last winter, an illness that had generated medical bills he was still struggling to pay. "I need to get home to my daughter soon, Miss Bancroft. She gets worried if I'm late." Something in Olivia's expression shifted, a momentary softness breaking through her polished exterior, a flash of genuine interest, perhaps even vulnerability, that seemed out of place on someone born into such privilege. "How old is your daughter?" "7, her name's Lily. She's—" Nathan hesitated, unsure why he was sharing personal details with someone who lived in such a different world. "She's all I have left." Olivia studied him with unexpected intensity, her eyes scanning his face as if searching for something specific. The weight of her scrutiny made Nathan unconsciously straighten his posture, a reflexive dignity asserting itself despite his humble position. "I need a companion for tomorrow night's charity gala. $5,000 for one evening. Black tie, smile, make small talk. That's it." Nathan nearly dropped his cleaning rag. $5,000 would cover Lily's overdue medical bills from her pneumonia. It would pay for the Science Museum field trip she'd been talking about for weeks. It might even leave enough for a proper winter coat to replace the one she'd outgrown. "I don't have a tuxedo, Miss Bancroft. I'll handle everything." Her eyes never left his face. "There's just one condition. You can't ask questions about why I need you there. Can you do that?" Through the mansion's windows, Nathan could see his rusted Honda in the circular driveway, exhaust still visible in the crisp October air. Inside that car was Lily's booster seat, held together with duct tape, and her beloved stuffed bear, Mr. Whiskers, missing one eye. The bear had been a gift from Rebecca just before she died in what police had ruled a tragic accident, a truck running a red light, striking her car with such force that the vehicle was nearly unrecognizable. 2 years later, the loss still felt raw, especially in moments when Lily's smile mirrored her mother's so perfectly it took his breath away. "Yes," he said quietly. "I can do that." Olivia smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Good. Tomorrow at 7. Don't disappoint me, Nathan Reed." As she walked away, the scent of expensive perfume lingering in her wake, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that he had just agreed to something far more complicated than a simple evening out. But $5,000 was $5,000, and Lily needed so much more than he could provide on a janitor's salary. The two-bedroom apartment in Queens that Nathan shared with Lily was a world away from Bancroft Manor. The kitchen faucet dripped despite his repeated attempts to fix it, and the radiator clanked through the night during winter months. But tonight, as Nathan turned his key in the lock, hearing Lily's excited footsteps running to greet him, it felt like home. "Daddy!" Lily threw her arms around his waist, her dark hair falling in waves around her heart-shaped face. "Mrs. Rodriguez let me help make empanadas, and I got an A on my math test." Nathan lifted her into a hug, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo, the cheap kind that came in large bottles from the discount store. Lily had Rebecca's eyes, deep brown with flecks of amber, and the same determined chin. In so many ways, she was the perfect blend of them both, Rebecca's intelligence and compassion with Nathan's resilience and practicality. "That's my smart girl. Let me just thank Mrs. Rodriguez, and then you can tell me all about your day." Their elderly neighbor waved away his gratitude as she always did. "Lily is a blessing of Nathan, such a good helper in the kitchen." Her eyes softened with concern. "But that cough of hers came back. Maybe she should see the doctor again?" Nathan nodded, though they both knew another doctor's visit meant more bills he couldn't afford. "I'll keep an eye on it. Thank you for everything, Mrs. Rodriguez." After Mrs. Rodriguez left, Nathan found himself at their small kitchen table, staring at the pile of bills he'd been avoiding. The electricity notice was stamped "Final Warning" in angry red letters. Lily's school had sent home a form about the Science Museum field trip, $30 that might as well have been $3,000 for all his ability to afford it. The refrigerator hummed erratically in the background, another appliance on its last legs that he couldn't afford to replace. "Is everything okay, Daddy?" Lily looked up from her homework, too perceptive for her 7 years. She had arranged her colored pencils in perfect rainbow order, a small act of creating order in their often chaotic life. Nathan quickly tucked the bills away. "Actually, I have some good news. I got offered some extra work. Good work that pays well." Lily's eyes, Rebecca's eyes, lit up with hope. "Really? Does that mean I can go to the Science Museum with my class?" "Parker said we'll get to see real dinosaur bones and a planetarium show with stars that look just like the real night sky." "I think so, kiddo. In fact, I have to go to a fancy party tomorrow night, like in the movies." Lily giggled, her missing front tooth making the sound even more delightful. "You're going to look silly in a fancy suit, Daddy, like a penguin." "Probably," Nathan agreed, though the thought of wearing clothes worth more than their rent made his stomach churn. He'd spent most of his adult life in work uniforms and second-hand clothes. The last time he'd worn a suit was at Rebecca's funeral. "Mrs. Rodriguez said she'd watch you tomorrow night. Is that okay?" Lily nodded enthusiastically. "She always has cookies and tells me stories about Cuba. She says the stars look different there, but they're still the same stars, just from a different angle." Lily paused, thoughtful beyond her years. "Do you think Mommy can see the same stars we do, just from a different angle too?" Nathan swallowed the lump in his throat. "I think so, Princess. I really do." He gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Now let's make dinner and you can tell me all about that math test." Later that night, after Lily had fallen asleep clutching Mr. Whiskers, Nathan sat at their kitchen table, the bills spread out before him once more. The medical bills from Lily's pneumonia remained unpaid after 10 months. The hospital had started sending letters from their collections department, each one more threatening than the last. The school had sent home 3 reminders about the field trip money, and now the electric company was threatening to cut service. He ran a hand through his hair, studying the budget he'd created, a careful accounting of every penny that somehow never stretched far enough. Before Rebecca's death, they'd been getting by. Not comfortably, but with 2 incomes they'd managed. She'd been a talented interior designer, finally starting to build a reputation among some well-connected clients when the accident happened. Insurance had covered the funeral, but little else. Now it was just Nathan, working 60-hour weeks across 3 different janitorial jobs, always tired, always behind. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Tuxedo fitting tomorrow at 2 p.m. Address attached. Don't be late." Nathan stared at the message, wondering what Olivia Bancroft really wanted from him. In his experience, the wealthy didn't throw money around without expecting something substantial in return. But as Lily coughed softly in her sleep, a lingering reminder of her illness, he realized he would walk through fire if it meant giving his daughter a better life. The boutique on Fifth Avenue smelled like expensive leather and quiet judgment. Nathan stood awkwardly among racks of suits that cost more than his car, feeling like an imposter in his worn jeans and faded work shirt. The tailor, an older Italian man named Giovanni, circled him with measuring tape and disapproving clicks of his tongue. "Shoulders too broad for the Armani," Giovanni muttered in heavily accented English. "But the Brioni, yes. This will work." Nathan caught his reflection in the three-way mirror and barely recognized the man staring back. The charcoal suit transformed him from janitor to someone who might actually belong at a charity gala. But the transformation felt like putting on a costume for a play he hadn't auditioned for. His hands, no matter how thoroughly he'd scrubbed them, still bore the calluses and tiny scars of years of manual labor, markers of a life that couldn't be concealed by expensive fabric. "Miss Bancroft has excellent taste," Giovanni said, pinning the jacket sleeves. She was very specific. "He must look like old money," she said, "not new money trying too hard." Nathan frowned. "None. How do you know the difference?" Giovanni smiled knowingly. "Old money whispers, new money shouts. You, my friend, have the face for whispering." The tailor stepped back, assessing his work. The eyes, perhaps, something in them that cannot be bought. While Giovanni worked, Nathan's phone buzzed with text from Lily, sent from Mrs. Rodriguez's phone. "Daddy, Mrs. R made churros," followed by a blurry photo of Lily's sauce-covered grin. The simple joy in her smile centered him, a reminder of what really mattered amidst this strange detour into a world of wealth and privilege. After the fitting, Nathan took the subway back to Queens, the contrast between the luxury boutique and the crowded train car stark and disorienting. He had 3 hours before his night shift at the office building in Midtown, just enough time to help Lily with her homework and make dinner before Mrs. Rodriguez would come over to watch her. The rhythm of his life, carefully calibrated to maximize time with his daughter while still earning enough to keep them afloat, left little room for unexpected events like charity galas with millionaire heiresses. At 6:30 the next evening, Nathan stood before the bathroom mirror in his apartment, struggling with the bow tie that had defeated him twice already. His hands shook slightly, not from nervousness about the party, but from the weight of what $5,000 meant for them. It was hope in tangible form, a breathing space in the constant struggle to stay ahead of poverty. The bow tie finally cooperated on the third attempt. The man in the mirror looked like someone Nathan might have passed on the street and assumed had an easy life, someone born to privilege rather than someone who had cleaned the bathrooms of the privileged since he was 20. The transformation was unsettling, a reminder of how much appearance dictated the way the world responded to you. Lily sat on the edge of the bathtub, watching him with wide-eyed fascination. "You look like a movie star, Daddy, or maybe a spy on a secret mission." Nathan smiled, momentarily relieved by her enthusiasm. "Just a janitor in borrowed feathers, Princess." "Sometimes I think people don't see how special you are," Lily said with the profound simplicity of childhood. "But I always see it, even when you're just in your work clothes." Nathan knelt down to her level, straightened the collar of her pajamas. "You know what, Lilybug? Sometimes I think you're the wisest person I know." Lily's expression turned serious. "Daddy, do you think Mommy would be proud of us? Sometimes I forget things about her, like the sound of her laugh, and it makes me sad." Nathan felt his throat tighten. "Your mom would be so proud of you, it would practically burst out of her. And whenever you smile with your whole face, or when you get excited about learning something new, that's when I hear her laugh the clearest." Lily wrapped her arms around his neck, careful not to wrinkle his suit. "I think she sent you this fancy job today. Sometimes I think she's like my guardian angel, making sure good things find us." The knock on his door came at exactly 7 o'clock. After ensuring Mrs. Rodriguez was settled with Lily and emergency numbers were posted on the refrigerator, Nathan opened the door to find Olivia Bancroft standing in his doorway, looking like she'd stepped from the pages of a fashion magazine. Her midnight blue gown seemed to absorb and reflect light simultaneously, and diamonds sparkled at her throat like captured stars. But her eyes held the same guarded sadness Nathan had noticed at the mansion. "You clean up well," she said, her voice carrying an odd tension. "Thank you. You look beautiful, Miss Bancroft." "Olivia, tonight we're equals." She paused, studying his face with uncomfortable intensity. "Are you ready for this, Nathan? Once we walk into that ballroom, there's no going back." Something in her tone made him pause. "No going back to what?" She smiled, but it was sharp around the edges. "To the way things were before." The limousine ride through Manhattan was surreal. Olivia sat across from him, occasionally sipping champagne while staring out the window at the city lights. She had given him a brief crash course in charity gala etiquette, but Nathan sensed she was holding back crucial information. The city transformed outside the tinted windows. Streets Nathan knew from bus routes and subway stops appearing dramatically different from the luxurious isolation of the limousine. "Can I ask you something?" Nathan said as they approached the hotel. "Why me? You could have asked anyone to be your date tonight." Olivia's champagne glass paused halfway to her lips. "Because you're honest, and because—" She trailed off, then shook her head. "Because tonight I need someone who won't judge me for what I'm about to do." The Plaza Hotel blazed with lights, its entrance crowded with photographers and elegantly dressed couples. As their limousine pulled up, Olivia took a deep breath, a momentary glimpse of vulnerability breaking through her composed exterior. Her hand found his in the darkness of the car. "Remember, no questions. Just smile, make small talk, and follow my lead." Her hand trembled slightly as she reached for the door handle. "And Nathan, whatever happens tonight, whatever you learn about me or my family, just know that everything I've told you about why I need you here is true." As the chauffeur opened their door and camera flashes exploded like miniature lightning strikes, Nathan wondered what secrets Olivia Bancroft was carrying and why she needed a janitor from Queens to help her face them. He offered his arm, and they ascended the hotel steps together, his years of physical labor giving him a natural grace that matched her practiced poise. The grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel was a cathedral of wealth and power. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across tables laden with orchids and gold-rimmed plates, while hundreds of New York's elite mingled beneath painted ceilings that had witnessed decades of secrets and scandals. Nathan felt every bit the imposter as Olivia guided him through the crowd, her hand light on his arm, but her grip surprisingly strong. She moved through the social landscape like someone reading a map, steering him towards specific groups with deliberate precision. Nathan observed the subtle hierarchies at play, who deferred to whose smiles were genuine, and whose were calculated. Years of being invisible to the wealthy had made him an astute observer of their behaviors, though tonight he found himself inside the aquarium rather than cleaning its glass. "Olivia, darling." A silver-haired woman in pearls approached them, her smile bright but her eyes calculating. "And who is this handsome stranger?" "Mrs. Winters. I'd like you to meet Nathan Reed." "Nathan, this is Margaret Winters. She runs the Bancroft Foundation's educational initiatives." Nathan shook the offered hand, noting how Mrs. Winters' eyes lingered on his face with unexpected intensity. There was something almost clinical in her assessment, as if she were cataloging his features against some mental checklist. "Reed," she repeated slowly. "What an interesting surname. Are you from New York originally, Nathan?" "Queens," Nathan replied, uncomfortable with her scrutiny. "Born and raised." Something flickered across Mrs. Winters' features. Surprise, recognition, maybe fear. Her hand briefly fluttered to her pearl necklace, fingers nervously adjusting the clasp. How fascinating. She excused herself abruptly, leaving Nathan confused by the strange encounter. Olivia's grip on his arm tightened. "We need to keep moving." They navigated through clusters of conversations about tax shelters disguised as philanthropy and vacation homes in places Nathan had never heard of. He recognized several prominent business leaders and politicians whose faces had appeared in the newspapers he sometimes read during his lunch breaks. Olivia introduced him as her dear friend, but he noticed how she never elaborated on how they'd met or how long they'd known each other. At their assigned table, Nathan found himself seated between Olivia and a portly man named Richard Maxwell, who immediately launched into a monologue about his yacht while his wife gazed longingly at the wine bottles. Nathan noted the practiced ease with which Richard dropped names and figures. 60-foot yacht, summer home in the Hamptons. went to retreat in Aspen, as if casually establishing his position in the hierarchy of wealth. "So, Nathan," Richard said, cutting into a $70 piece of salmon, "what line of work are you in?" The question Nathan had been dreading. He glanced at Olivia, who nodded almost imperceptibly. "Facility management," Nathan said carefully. Technically true, even if his facilities were other people's toilets and floors. "Ah, real estate. Excellent field. Which properties do you manage?" Before Nathan could stumble through another evasive answer, the lights dimmed and a woman approached the podium. She was elderly but regal, with silver hair swept into an elegant chignon and eyes that seemed to take in everything. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bancroft Foundation's annual gala. I'm Victoria Bancroft, Olivia's grandmother and foundation president." Nathan watched Olivia's face transform as her grandmother began speaking. The careful composure cracked, revealing something raw and vulnerable underneath. Her fingers tensed around her champagne glass, knuckles whitening with pressure. When Victoria's gaze swept across their table and landed on Nathan, he felt pinned in place like a specimen under a microscope. The elderly woman faltered mid-sentence, her composed expression slipping for just a moment before she recovered. "This year, we're proud to announce a new scholarship program for underprivileged children in Queens," Victoria continued, but her eyes never left Nathan's face. "Sometimes the most important gifts come from the most unexpected places." The applause was thunderous, but Nathan barely heard it. Victoria Bancroft was staring at him with an expression he couldn't decipher. Shock, perhaps, or recognition. Something that looked almost like fear. The intensity of her gaze made the fine hairs on the back of his neck stand up, an instinctive warning that he had walked into something far more complicated than a simple charity event. During the auction portion of the evening, Olivia bid aggressively on a painting of a lighthouse, paying far more than its apparent value. The piece was unremarkable to Nathan's untrained eye, a simple seascape with a solitary lighthouse perched on rocky cliffs. When Nathan questioned her about it later, she simply said, "Some things are worth more than money." As the evening wore on, Nathan noticed other guests stealing glances at him, their expressions ranging from curious to concerned. Mrs. Winters appeared at their table twice more, each time engaging him in conversation that felt more like an interrogation. "Where did you attend school, Nathan?" "Queens Public, nothing fancy." "And your parents, what do they do?" "My mother died when I was 15. Cancer. My father passed when I was very young." "How tragic. No siblings either?" "Just me." Each question seemed innocent enough, but the intensity behind them was unsettling. It was as if these people were trying to piece together a puzzle, and somehow Nathan was a crucial piece. "You know," Mrs. Winters said during her final visit, leaning close enough that he could smell her expensive perfume, "you have such distinctive features. I feel like I've seen your face before." Olivia stood abruptly, champagne sloshing over the rim of her glass. "Nathan, would you mind getting me some air? I think I need to step outside for a moment." On the hotel's balcony overlooking Central Park, Olivia finally dropped her composed facade. Her hands shook as she lit a cigarette, the first Nathan had seen her smoke. The October night was cool. The city spread below them in a tapestry of lights. In the distance, the modest glow of Queens was barely visible, a reminder of how far Nathan was from his normal life. "I need to tell you something," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But first I need to know, did your mother ever mention anything about your father? Your real father?" Nathan felt the world tilt slightly. "What are you talking about? My father was William Reed. Construction accident when I was 2. Olivia took a long drag of her cigarette, the ember glowing bright orange in the darkness. "Nathan, what if I told you that everything you know about your family is a lie?" Before he could respond, the balcony door opened and Victoria Bancroft stepped outside, her face pale in the moonlight. Her eyes darted between Olivia and Nathan, the careful poise she'd displayed at the podium now replaced by barely contained alarm. "Olivia," she said quietly, "what have you done?" The grandmother's eyes moved between them, and Nathan saw something there that made his blood run cold. Guilt, recognition, and 35 years of buried secrets. Victoria Bancroft's voice cut through the night air like a blade. "Olivia Marie Bancroft, you were specifically told never to pursue this." Nathan looked between the two women, feeling like he'd walked into the middle of a movie with no context for the plot. Olivia dropped her cigarette, crushing it under her designer heel with unnecessary force. Told by whom, grandmother? By you? By the board? By the same people who covered this up in the first place? Covered what up? Nathan stepped forward, his patience finally breaking. I agreed to be your date, not your pawn in some family drama. I have a daughter waiting for me at home, and I don't have time for riddles. Victoria's composure cracked slightly. She studied Nathan's face with the intensity of someone reading a map to buried treasure. Oh, my dear boy, you have his eyes. James's eyes. Who the hell is James? Nathan demanded, the confusion giving way to a building anger. Olivia turned to face him fully, her earlier nervousness replaced by grim determination. James Bancroft, my uncle. He died 35 years ago in what everyone called an accident. Nathan felt something cold settle in his stomach. What does this have to do with me? Victoria moved closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. Because Nathan Reed, James Bancroft was your father. The words hit Nathan like a physical blow. The sounds of the party inside seemed to fade, replaced by a rushing sensation in his ears. The world around him tilted and shifted, reality reorganizing itself in a pattern he couldn't comprehend. That's impossible. My father was William Reed. He died in a construction accident when I was 2. William Reed adopted you when he married your mother, Olivia said gently. But your biological father was James Bancroft, heir to the Bancroft fortune, and my father's younger brother. Victoria's hands trembled as she spoke. James fell in love with a young woman from Queens, a waitress named Patricia Carter who worked at his favorite diner. When she became pregnant, he wanted to marry her, wanted to acknowledge the child publicly, but the family wouldn't allow it. The scandal, Nathan said, the pieces clicking together with horrible clarity. A Bancroft marrying a waitress, having a child out of wedlock. Victoria's laugh was bitter. The scandal would have destroyed us socially and financially, so we made her an offer she couldn't refuse. Nathan's hands clenched into fists. You paid her off. We gave her enough money to disappear, to start over somewhere else with her child, Victoria said defensively. It was what was best for everyone. Everyone except my father, Nathan said. What happened to James? Olivia and Victoria exchanged a look that spoke of years of family secrets. He threatened to expose everything, Olivia said quietly. Threatened to tell the newspapers about you, about how the Bancroft family had abandoned their own blood. 3 days later, he died in a car accident. The balcony felt like it was spinning. Nathan gripped the railing, his knuckles white against the cold stone. You think he was murdered? I know he was murdered, Olivia said fiercely, and I've spent the last 3 years gathering proof. Victoria's face had gone ashen. Olivia, you don't understand what you're risking. What, grandmother? That people who killed James and covered it up? People who spent 35 years making sure the truth never came to light? Olivia's voice rose dangerously. People who are still alive, still in positions of power, still protecting their interests? Nathan thought about Lily, asleep in Mrs. Rodriguez's apartment, clutching Mr. Whiskers and dreaming of the Science Museum. He thought about the $5,000 that had seemed like salvation just hours ago. He thought about his life, the endless struggle, the constant worry, the feeling that no matter how hard he worked, he would never be able to give Lily the life she deserved. I need to go, he said suddenly. This is too much. I need to get back to my daughter. Nathan, wait. Olivia caught his arm. Don't you see? You're not just a janitor from Queens. You're James Bancroft's son. You're heir to half the Bancroft fortune. I'm heir to nothing, Nathan said, pulling away. I'm Lily's father. That's the only thing that matters to me. But as he walked toward the balcony door, Victoria's voice stopped him cold. They know about Lily. Nathan froze. What did you say? The people who killed James, who've been protecting this secret for 35 years. They know you exist now, and they know about your daughter. Victoria's face was grave in the moonlight. Olivia has made you both targets by bringing you here tonight. Through the ballroom windows, Nathan could see the party continuing. Elegant people laughing and dancing, unaware that on this balcony, a 35-year-old murder was being discussed, along with threats to a 7-year-old girl. What do you want from me? Nathan asked quietly. Olivia's answer would change everything. I want you to help me prove who killed your father. And in return, I'll make sure Lily is safe. And you both get what James wanted you to have all along. The limousine ride back to Queens was suffocating. Nathan sat in silence, watching the city blur past, while Olivia spoke in hushed tones on her phone, arranging security details as casually as she might order coffee. No, I want them at his apartment building within the hour, she said, and make sure they're discreet. A 7-year-old girl lives there. Nathan's head snapped toward her. You're having my daughter watched? Olivia ended the call. Protected, not watched. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've dragged my family into something that could get us killed. The limousine pulled up outside Nathan's building. Through the grimy windows, he could see Mrs. Rodriguez's apartment, light still on. Lily was probably asleep on her couch by now, clutching Mr. Whiskers, blissfully unaware that her life had just been upended by secrets older than she was. Nathan, listen to me, Olivia said urgently. Your mother is still alive. The words hit him like electricity. What? Patricia Carter, your mother. She didn't die of cancer when you were 15. That was another lie, another cover-up. Nathan felt the last foundations of his reality crumbling. That's impossible. I was at her funeral. I saw her buried. You saw someone buried, but it wasn't your mother. Olivia pulled out a tablet, showing him a photograph of a woman in her 60s working in a garden. The face was older, weathered by years and sadness, but unmistakably familiar. She looks like Lily, Nathan whispered, his voice catching. She's your daughter's grandmother, and she's been living in hiding for 20 years because she tried to tell the truth about James's death. Nathan stared at the photo, his mind reeling. The woman had Lily's smile, the same stubborn set to her jaw that Nathan remembered from his childhood. The people who killed James made it clear that if she ever tried to expose them, you would die, Olivia continued. So she faked her death, disappeared, and has been watching over you from a distance ever since. Watching over me, Nathan's voice was hollow. I was 15 years old. I was alone, foster care, group homes, sleeping in shelters. She wanted to take you with her, but it would have put you in more danger. At least if you stayed, you could have a normal life, even if it was difficult. Nathan thought about all the nights he'd cried for his mother, all the birthdays and graduations she'd missed, all the moments when he'd needed her most. Normal? You call living in poverty normal? Compared to being murdered? Yes. The limousine door opened and Nathan stepped out into the cold Queens air. His building looked shabbier than ever next to Olivia's wealth, but it was real in a way that nothing from tonight felt real. I need to check on Lily, Nathan said, his protective instincts overriding everything else. You can come up if you want to continue this conversation, but I need to see my daughter first. Olivia nodded, following him into the building. Mrs. Rodriguez answered her door in a faded housecoat, her eyes widening at the sight of Olivia in her evening gown. Lily is sleeping, she whispered. Such a good girl. No problems. Nathan thanked her, gently lifting his sleeping daughter into his arms. Lily mumbled something about dinosaurs but didn't wake, clutching Mr. Whiskers closer to her chest. In the quiet of their apartment, Nathan tucked Lily into bed, adjusting her nightlight, a constellation projector that cast stars across her ceiling, before quietly closing her door. Olivia waited in the small living room and looking out of place among the second-hand furniture and discount store decorations. She had removed her diamond earrings, as if trying to tone down her obvious wealth. Tell me everything, Nathan said, his voice low to avoid waking Lily. No more games. Olivia sank onto the worn couch. 3 years ago, I found a locked box in my father's study. Inside were letters from James to your mother, photographs of them together, and journal entries detailing his plan to acknowledge you publicly, despite the family's objections. She pulled documents from her purse, yellowed letters and faded photographs. Nathan's hands trembled as he accepted them, seeing his mother's youthful face smiling up at a handsome man who shared his jawline and eyes. James fell in love with Patricia when she waited on him at a diner in Queens. She was putting herself through community college, studying to become a nurse. He kept going back, day after day, until he finally asked her out. Nathan studied the photographs, trying to reconcile this smiling couple with the mother he'd known, always tired, always worried, but fiercely protective and loving. The family was horrified when they found out she was pregnant. The Bancrofts don't mix with common people. They offered her money to disappear, to terminate the pregnancy, but she refused. James supported her decision and threatened to go public with everything, not just about you, but about some questionable business practices at Bancroft Industries. What kind of practices? Bribery of government officials, tax evasion, possibly even money laundering. I haven't been able to find concrete proof yet, but James knew everything. He was being groomed to take over the company, eventually. Nathan set the photographs down, suddenly recognizing a familiar landmark in the background of one. This is the lighthouse from the painting you bid on tonight. Olivia nodded. James proposed to Patricia there. It's where they were happiest. I've been trying to buy that painting for years, but it always mysteriously disappears from auctions before I can get it. Tonight was the first time I succeeded. Nathan's eyes narrowed. So what happened after James threatened to expose the family? 3 days later, his car went off a cliff near that same lighthouse. The brakes had been cut. The official investigation ruled it an accident, but James had told Patricia he was being followed in the days before his death. Olivia pulled out more documents, copies of police reports, news clippings, and what appeared to be mechanical inspection notes. Your mother knew it wasn't an accident. She started asking questions, gathering evidence. But when you were 15, she got too close to the truth. She received threats against your life, photos of you walking to school, notes detailing your daily routine. So she did the only thing she could think of to protect you. She disappeared. And let me think she was dead, Nathan said bitterly. Let me go through the foster system, struggle on my own. She had people watching over you, anonymous deposits into your bank account, strings pulled to get you jobs. The janitorial position at Bancroft Manor wasn't an accident, Nathan. She wanted you close enough to be protected, but not so close that you'd be recognized. Nathan paced the small living room trying to process everything. And Rebecca, my wife's accident? Olivia's expression darkened. That's what I've been trying to figure out. 2 years ago, I started looking for you in earnest. I tracked down records, followed the money trail your mother left, and then, just as I was getting close, Rebecca died in a car accident. You think it wasn't an accident? I think it's too much of a coincidence. Rebecca was an interior designer, right? Working on a renovation project at Maxwell and Associates law firm. Nathan stopped pacing. Yes, how did you know that? Because Richard Maxwell is deeply connected to the Bancroft family. He's been their attorney for over 40 years. I believe Rebecca may have found something during that renovation, perhaps documents related to James's death or your mother's disappearance. The room seemed to spin around Nathan. He steadied himself against the wall, memories flooding back. Rebecca's excitement the day before her accident, telling him she'd found something important about his family history. Her nervousness, checking the locks twice that night. She called me, Nathan said slowly, the day she died. Said she discovered something that could change our lives. 3 hours later, she was hit by a truck that ran a red light. Olivia's eyes widened. Did she say what she found? No, she wanted to tell me in person. Nathan's voice broke. She never got the chance, Veit. Silence hung between them, broken only by the distant sound of city traffic and the hum of the old refrigerator. You've been watching me for years, Nathan finally said. Why approach me now? Olivia rolled up her sleeve, revealing a bandage on her forearm. Because 3 days ago, someone cut the brake lines on my car. Just like they did to James 35 years ago. I barely survived. She showed him a newspaper clipping on her tablet. The headline read, Bancroft heiress injured in suspicious car accident. Finding you, bringing you into this, it wasn't just about exposing the truth. It was about creating enough chaos to keep me alive long enough to fight back. Nathan's eyes narrowed. You used me as bait. I used you as protection. They can't kill both of us without raising too many questions. 2 Bancroft heirs dying in the same month? Even they're not that bold. As if summoned by their conversation, headlights swept across the window. A black sedan pulled up across the street, its engine idling. Olivia noticed Nathan's gaze. They're not here to hurt you, not yet. They're here to watch, to see what you'll do next. Nathan moved to Lily's room, gently opening the door to reassure himself she was still sleeping peacefully. In the soft glow of her nightlight, she looked so small, so vulnerable. He thought about the medical bills that had seemed so important just hours ago. They felt trivial now compared to the threat looming over his daughter's life. "If I help you," Nathan said quietly, closing Lily's door, "if we do this together, what happens to Lily if we lose?" Olivia's answer was brutally honest. "Then she grows up an orphan just like you did. But at least she'll grow up knowing her father died fighting for the truth instead of running from it." The black sedan's engine hummed in the distance as Nathan made the decision that would define the rest of his life, however long that might be. "Tell me about my mother. Where is she now?" "Portland, living under the name Melissa Morrison. She owns a small flower shop. I've arranged for you to speak with her tomorrow, securely, through an encrypted video call." Nathan ran a hand through his hair. "And what's our next move?" "We need evidence, concrete proof that Richard Maxwell ordered James's murder and was behind the threats to your mother." "And Rebecca's accident?" "That too. I believe they're all connected." Nathan nodded toward the window where the black sedan remained. "What about them?" "My security team is watching them, watching us. Lily will be protected. I promise you that." Nathan studied Olivia's face, searching for deception, but finding only grim determination. "Why are you doing this? Really? This fight was over before you were born." "Because James was the only member of my family who was ever kind to me," Olivia said softly. "Everyone else saw me as an heir, a continuation of the Bancroft line. James saw me as a person. He used to sneak me ice cream before dinner and tell me stories about a world where people were valued for their hearts, not their bank accounts." For the first time, Nathan saw beyond Olivia's polished exterior to the lonely child she must have been, growing up in that cold marble mansion. "And," she continued, "because I've spent my life surrounded by people who believe money puts them above the law, above basic human decency. I'm tired of watching them get away with it." A soft knock at the door interrupted them. Nathan tensed, but Olivia raised a calming hand. "It's probably my head of security. I asked him to bring something." Nathan checked the peephole before opening the door to a tall man in a crisp suit who handed over a secure laptop and several files before disappearing without a word. "We should get some rest," Olivia said. "Tomorrow will be difficult." "You're staying here?" "If that's all right, it's safer for both of us to stay together right now." Nathan nodded toward the couch. "It's not the plaza, but it's clean." "I've slept in worse places," Olivia said with a wry smile. "Boarding school had surprisingly uncomfortable beds for what my parents paid." As Nathan gathered spare blankets for Olivia, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Your daughter looks so peaceful when she sleeps." His blood turned to ice. He rushed to Lily's room, heart hammering. She was there, safe, but the window was slightly open, a window he was certain he'd locked. Another text arrived. "We need to talk. Riverside Park. 1 hour. Come alone or the next photo won't be so innocent." Nathan showed the message to Olivia, who immediately called her security team. "They've breached the perimeter." "How? I want answers now." While Olivia dealt with her team, Nathan sat on the edge of Lily's bed, watching her chest rise and fall with each breath. The thought of someone standing in this room, photographing his sleeping daughter, made him physically ill. "My team swept the apartment," Olivia said from the doorway. "No listening devices, but they found this." She held up a small tracking device. "It was on your suit. They've been following you since the tailors." "I need to meet them," Nathan said. "They threaten Lily." "It's a trap. They'll kill you." "If I don't go, they might hurt Lily. I can't risk that." Olivia was quiet for a moment. "There's another option. My mother has a house in the Hamptons. It's isolated, secure, and unknown to most of the family. I can have Lily taken there tonight, with Mrs. Rodriguez if she's willing. They'll be safe while we deal with this." "And leave Lily with strangers?" "Not strangers. My mother's staff has been with her for decades, and Richard Maxwell has no idea the property exists. My mother bought it under a different name years ago during a brief rebellion phase." Nathan looked down at Lily, weighing his options. "Let me talk to Mrs. Rodriguez." To his relief, Mrs. Rodriguez agreed immediately. "I will protect her like my own granddaughter," she promised, already packing a small bag. Within 30 minutes, Lily, still half asleep, was bundled into an unmarked car with Mrs. Rodriguez, surrounded by Olivia's security team. "Daddy, why are we having a sleepover at the beach?" Lily mumbled, clutching Mr. Whiskers. Nathan knelt beside the car door. "It's a special surprise, Princess. Mrs. Rodriguez will stay with you, and I'll come as soon as I can." "Promise?" "Cross my heart. I love you bigger than the sky, remember? And deeper than the ocean." Lily finished their familiar exchange before drifting back to sleep. As the car pulled away, Nathan felt as if his heart was being torn from his chest. "If anything happens to her—" "It won't," Olivia assured him. "Now, about that meeting at Riverside Park, I think it's time we turn the tables." An hour later, Nathan walked through the deserted paths of Riverside Park, fallen leaves crunching beneath his feet. The city felt different at this hour, emptier, more dangerous. Every shadow could hide a threat. According to Olivia's plan, her security team was positioned throughout the park, watching from a distance, ready to intervene if necessary. He found a man waiting by the river, elegant even in the pre-dawn darkness. Distinguished, probably 65, with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much. "Nathan Reed," the man said. "Or should I say Nathan Bancroft?" "Who are you?" "Someone who knew your father very well." "My name is Richard Maxwell. I was James's best friend, and the man who had him killed." The confession hit Nathan like a physical blow. Despite Olivia's suspicions, hearing the admission spoken so casually was shocking. "Why, man?" Richard lit a cigarette with steady hands. "Because I loved him. Because he was going to throw away everything, his family, his fortune, his future, for a waitress from Queens and her bastard child. That bastard child was his son. That bastard child was going to destroy the Bancroft legacy." Richard's voice was cold, clinical. "James couldn't see past his romantic notions. He was going to acknowledge you publicly, marry your mother, make you his heir. Do you have any idea what that would have done to the family's reputation?" Nathan thought about Lily, about the fierce love that would make him burn down the world to protect her. "So you murdered him." "I saved him from himself, and I saved you from a life of being whispered about, pointed at, forever known as the illegitimate Bancroft heir." Richard stepped closer. "I gave you the gift of anonymity. You gave me a life of poverty and lies. And look how strong it made you. Look at the man you became, honest, hardworking, devoted to your daughter. Would you have been the same if you'd grown up drowning in Bancroft money and expectations?" The twisted logic made Nathan sick. "What do you want from me now?" "I want you to walk away. Take your daughter, take the money Olivia is offering you, and disappear. Live quietly, raise your child, forget you ever heard the name Bancroft." "And if I don't?" Richard dropped his cigarette, crushing it under his expensive shoe. "Then you'll join your father at the bottom of the river, and your daughter will have another unfortunate accident, just like her mother did." Nathan's world tilted. Rebecca's death wasn't an accident. "Did you really think it was coincidence that she did it just as you were starting to ask questions about your past? Just as she was beginning to research your mother's supposed death?" The memory hit Nathan like lightning. Rebecca's last phone call, excited, saying she'd found something important about his family history. She died 3 hours later when a truck ran a red light. "You've been watching me for years," Nathan whispered. "Protecting my investment. Protecting the secret that's kept this family stable for 35 years. Richard straightened his coat. "You have 24 hours to decide, Nathan. Walk away rich or stay and die poor." As Richard disappeared into the darkness, Nathan stood alone by the river, understanding finally that this had never been about justice or family legacy. It had always been about power and how far people would go to keep it. His phone buzzed. A text from Olivia. "Did you meet him?" Nathan typed back, "Richard Maxwell. He killed James and Rebecca." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. "Finally, meet me at the warehouse. It's time to end this." The warehouse in Brooklyn looked abandoned from the outside, but inside it hummed with activity. Olivia had transformed it into a command center. Computers lined tables, photographs covered walls, and whiteboards mapped out 35 years of Bancroft family secrets. Nathan stared at a timeline that started with his birth in 1989 and ended with Rebecca's death in 2023. Every tragedy in his life was connected to the Bancroft family's need for silence. "Richard Maxwell has been the Bancroft family's fixer for 4 decades, Olivia explained, pointing to surveillance photos. When James threatened to expose the family's treatment of you and your mother, Richard didn't just arrange his murder. He orchestrated a complete cover-up. A woman emerged from the shadows, and Nathan's heart stopped. She was older, grayer, but unmistakably the face from the photograph Olivia had shown him. "Hello, Nathan," she said softly. "I'm your mother, Patricia Carter." Patricia looked exactly like Lily would in 60 years. Same stubborn jawline, same gentle eyes, same way of holding her hands when nervous. "I've been watching you from a distance for 20 years, she continued, tears streaming down her face. "I've seen you graduate high school, get married, become a father. I was at the hospital when Lily was born." Nathan couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. 20 years of grief and abandonment crashed against the reality that his mother had been alive, watching, caring from afar. "Why didn't you?" he started. "Because Richard Maxwell made it clear that if I ever contacted you directly, you would die just like James died. Just like Rebecca died when she got too close to the truth." Olivia stepped forward. "Your mother has been my secret ally for 3 years. She's the one who provided most of the evidence against Richard." Patricia opened a briefcase filled with documents, photographs, and recordings. Richard kept trophies, evidence of what he'd done. He thought it made him untouchable. Who would believe a dead waitress from Queens over a respected Bancroft family lawyer? Nathan picked up a photograph of his father. Young, laughing, holding a baby that must have been Nathan himself. James Bancroft looked happy in a way that made his murder even more heartbreaking. "There's something else," Patricia said quietly. "Rebecca isn't just your wife, Nathan. She's also Richard's daughter." The room went silent. Nathan stared at his mother, certain he'd misheard. "Richard Maxwell is Rebecca's father? He's been watching Lily not just to control you, but because she's his blood, the only grandchild he'll ever have." The pieces clicked together with horrible clarity. Rebecca's mysterious family background, her reluctance to talk about her father, the way she'd always seemed to know more about Nathan's past than she let on. "Rebecca knew," Nathan said. Patricia nodded. "She found out 3 years ago when she started researching your family history. She discovered not only that you were James Bancroft's son, but that her own father was James's killer. She was going to expose everything," Olivia added, "so Richard arranged an accident that looked random." "But Rebecca had already hidden copies of the evidence," Patricia continued. "She knew he would come for her eventually." Olivia pulled out a laptop. "The evidence is all here. Financial records showing Richard's payments to the truck driver who killed Rebecca. Audio recordings of him confessing to James's murder. Photographs of him tampering with car brakes. Both James's in 1989 and mine 3 days ago." Nathan thought about Lily innocently playing while her grandfather plotted her father's death. "What about Lily? Is she safe?" "For now," Olivia said. "Richard won't hurt her as long as she's useful as leverage against you. But if we expose him, he'll see her as a liability," Nathan finished. Patricia moved closer to her son. "There's one more thing, Nathan, something Richard doesn't know. Rebecca left something for Lily, something that proves everything." She handed him a small key. "Storage unit 247 on Roosevelt Avenue. Rebecca rented it 2 days before she died. Inside is a letter for Lily and a safety deposit box key. The box contains enough evidence to destroy Richard Maxwell and everyone who helped him." Nathan looked at the key, understanding that it represented both salvation and potential doom for his daughter. "If we use this evidence," he said slowly, "Richard will know he's finished." "A man with nothing left to lose," Olivia agreed, "will do whatever it takes to survive, including killing a 7-year-old girl." The warehouse fell quiet, except for the hum of computers processing 35 years of buried secrets. Nathan held the key that could bring down his father's killer, knowing that using it might cost his daughter her life. Outside, dawn was breaking over Brooklyn, and somewhere in the Hamptons, Lily was waking up in a world where her father had to choose between justice and her safety. Nathan stood outside storage unit 247, the small key Patricia had given him clutched tightly in his palm. The early morning sun cast long shadows across the rows of identical orange doors, the facility still quiet at this hour. Olivia and Patricia waited beside him, their breath visible in the autumn chill. "Rebecca rented this 2 days before she died," Patricia said softly. "Whatever she found must have been important enough to risk everything." Nathan took a deep breath and inserted the key. The padlock clicked open, and he raised the rolling door to reveal a space barely larger than a closet. Inside sat a single cardboard box labeled in Rebecca's familiar handwriting. For Lily, when she's ready to know the truth. His hands trembled as he lifted the box. Inside were neatly organized folders, a sealed envelope addressed to Lily, and a small jewelry box containing a safety deposit box key. First National Bank, Olivia read the tag attached to the key. Box 1247. Nathan opened one of the folders, finding documents Rebecca had meticulously collected during her research. Newspaper clippings about James Bancroft's accident, financial records from Bancroft Industries showing suspicious transfers around the time of his death, and most surprisingly, photographs of Rebecca herself meeting with an elderly woman. "That's my mother," Richard Maxwell's secretary, Patricia explained. "She reached out to Rebecca after recognizing your name on some paperwork. She was the one who first connected the dots between Rebecca's work at the law firm and your history." Another folder contained photocopies of legal documents bearing Richard Maxwell's signature, authorizations for payments to offshore accounts, confidential settlements with the families of accident victims, and internal memos discussing the James Bancroft situation. "She was building a case," Nathan said, his voice thick with emotion, "gathering evidence piece by piece. And it got her killed," Olivia added grimly, "just like it almost got me killed. Whatever's in that safety deposit box must be the final piece, something so damning that Richard couldn't risk it becoming public." Nathan carefully repacked the box, securing the unit before they departed for the bank. The city was coming alive around them, morning commuters hurrying past, oblivious to the decades-old conspiracy unraveling in their midst. "I've been thinking about what Richard said," Nathan told Olivia as they drove, "about me being stronger for growing up without the Bancroft money and influence. Part of me wants to believe that's just his twisted justification, but you wonder if he's right," Olivia finished for him. "If wealth would have corrupted you somehow." Nathan nodded. "I look at Lillian. I wonder what kind of person she'll become. I've always believed our struggles made us appreciate the small things. A new book, a day at the park, ice cream on paydays. But I've also lain awake at night, terrified that I couldn't afford medicine if she got sick again." Patricia leaned forward from the back seat. "James worried about the same thing. He told me once that wealth was like water. It could nurture growth or drown you, depending on how you managed it. He wanted to teach you that balance." "He never got the chance," Nathan said quietly. The First National Bank's marble columns and brass fixtures spoke of old money and discretion. A manager escorted them to the private vault area after Nathan presented his ID and the safety deposit box key. Patricia and Olivia waited outside while Nathan entered the viewing room alone. Box 1247 opened with a soft click. Inside lay a sealed manila envelope labeled "Insurance" in bold letters, a USB drive, and a handwritten letter from Rebecca. Nathan's hands shook as he unfolded his wife's final message. "My dearest Nathan, if you're reading this, then what I feared has happened. I've discovered something terrible about your past and my own. By some cruel twist of fate, our lives were connected long before we met. When I was hired to renovate Maxwell and Associates, I found documents hidden in a false panel while measuring the office for new bookshelves. At first, I didn't understand their significance. Legal papers, old photographs, recordings. But then I saw your mother's name, Patricia Carter, and yours, Nathan Reed. I kept digging and discovered the truth. My father, Richard Maxwell, orchestrated the murder of your father, James Bancroft. And more horrifying still, he's been monitoring you your entire life. Our meeting wasn't chance. He engineered it, perhaps as some twisted way of keeping his enemy's son close. The USB contains everything: audio recordings of my father confessing to your father's murder, financial records of payments to the mechanic who tampered with James's brakes, and surveillance photos of you throughout your life. There's also a video confession from Barbara Maxwell, my father's secretary and mother, made shortly before her death last year. I don't know if you can ever forgive me for my father's sins or for the fact that I've kept this from you for months while gathering evidence. But please know that what we have, our love, our Lily, that was always real. I was drawn to you long before I knew the truth. Tell Lily that I love her more than all the stars in the sky, And remember that you are not defined by the Bancroft name or by my father's actions. You are the man who taught me what real strength looks like. All my love, Rebecca. Nathan wiped tears from his eyes as he carefully packed the contents back into the box. When he emerged from the viewing room, Patricia took one look at his face and pulled him into an embrace. She loved you, Patricia whispered. That's what matters most. Outside the bank, Nathan briefed Olivia on what he'd found. We have everything we need to destroy Richard. Audio confessions, financial records, even video testimony from his mother. Olivia nodded grimly. But as soon as we move against him, Lily becomes his primary target. I need to see her, Nathan said, now. They drove to Olivia's mother's estate in the Hamptons, a sprawling oceanfront property hidden behind high walls and security gates. As they approached, Nathan's phone rang. Mrs. Rodriguez's number. Nathan? Her voice was strained. I need to tell you something about Lily. His grip tightened on the phone. Is she all right? Yes, yes. She's playing on the beach with the security men watching. But this morning, she told me something strange about her bear, Mr. Whiskers. Nathan put the call on speaker so Olivia and Patricia could hear. She said her mother put something special inside him. A secret that keeps us safe, she called it. I didn't think much of it until I noticed the stitching around his remaining eye looks different from the rest of him. Nathan's heart raced. Mrs. Rodriguez, don't let Lily out of your sight. We'll be there in 20 minutes. As they pulled up to the estate, Nathan spotted Lily immediately, building a sandcastle at the edge of the private beach, 2 security guards positioned nearby. She looked up at the sound of the car, her face breaking into a joyous smile as she spotted her father. Daddy! She ran toward him, sand flying from her small feet. I made a castle with real towers and everything, and I found so many seashells. Nathan scooped her, holding her tightly against his chest. I missed you, princess. I missed you too. Did you see the ocean? It's so big. Mrs. Rodriguez says it goes all the way to Europe. Over Lily's shoulder, Nathan nodded greeting to the security team. Everything quiet? The lead guard nodded. No unusual activity. Perimeter secure. Where's Mr. Whiskers? Nathan asked Lily as he set her down. I bet he'd like to see the ocean too. He's having a nap in my room. He was tired from all the traveling. Lily took his hand, leading him toward the beach house. Come see my seashell collection. Inside, the beach house was airy and elegant, with large windows overlooking the Atlantic. Mrs. Rodriguez sat in a sunlit corner, knitting needles clicking rhythmically as she worked. She's been an angel, Mrs. Rodriguez told him, though she had a little trouble sleeping last night. Kept saying Mr. Whiskers was worried about something. Nathan found the stuffed bear propped against a pillow on Lily's temporary bed. The worn toy looked the same as always, except for the subtle difference in stitching around one eye, the eye that hadn't been replaced after being lost months ago. Lily, honey, can I see Mr. Whiskers for a second? I think he might have a loose thread. Lily handed over the bear without hesitation. Be careful with him, Daddy. He's very old. Nathan examined the stitching carefully. Someone, Rebecca, had sewn something inside the bear, behind the remaining eye. He needed to check without alarming Lily. Hey, princess, why don't you show Olivia your seashell collection? I bet she's never seen such amazing shells. Once Lily was happily engaged with Olivia, Nathan carefully examined the bear, finding a nearly invisible seam where the fabric had been cut and resewn. Working delicately, he located a small metal object within the stuffing, a micro SD card. Patricia joined him, watching as he extracted the tiny card. Rebecca knew, she whispered. She knew they might search her belongings, her computer, even the storage unit, but no one would think to look inside a child's beloved toy. Smart woman, Nathan said softly. Like mother, like daughter. They gathered in the beach house's study, inserting the micro SD card into Olivia's laptop. It contained a single video file. Rebecca sitting in what appeared to be a hotel room, looking directly into the camera. My name is Rebecca Maxwell Reed, she began. Today is October 15th, 2023. I'm recording this as evidence against my father, Richard Maxwell, who I believe has committed multiple crimes including murder, conspiracy, fraud, and corporate espionage. For the next 20 minutes, Rebecca methodically outlined everything she'd discovered. Dates, locations, account numbers, names of accomplices. She explained how she'd secretly recorded conversations with her father, copying files from his private archives during her renovation work at his firm. Most damning is his confession to me about James Bancroft's murder, Rebecca continued. He believed I would keep his secret out of family loyalty. He was wrong. The video cut to an audio recording, Richard's voice clearly recognizable. Of course I had him killed. James was going to ruin everything we'd built. One phone call, one mechanic with gambling debts, and the problem was solved. Tragic accident. No one even questioned it. Rebecca returned to the screen. I've placed copies of all supporting evidence in a safety deposit box. If you're seeing this, it means my father discovered what I was doing. If anything happens to me, please protect my husband, Nathan, and our daughter, Lily. They are innocent in all of this. She paused, emotion finally breaking through her composed facade. Nathan, if you're watching this, I'm so sorry. I love you and Lily more than anything. The truth was worth fighting for, even knowing the risk. The video ended, leaving them in stunned silence. We have him, Olivia finally said. This is everything we need. Nathan ran a hand over his face. But how do we use it without putting Lily at risk? As soon as we move against Richard, he'll come after her. Unless we make him believe we have nothing, Patricia suggested. What if we approach him, tell him we searched the storage unit and safety deposit box but found nothing useful? Make him think Rebecca's evidence was a bluff. He wouldn't believe us, Nathan argued. He might if we gave him something else he wants, Olivia said slowly. Me, the last remaining threat to his position. What are you suggesting? A trade? I tell Richard I'll leave the country, never return, sign away my Bancroft shares, in exchange for your safety and Lily's. Meanwhile, we secretly turn everything over to the FBI. He'd never agree to that, Patricia warned. He'd want proof the evidence was destroyed. Then we give him proof, Nathan said, an idea forming. We create a decoy, copies of documents with key information redacted or altered. Enough to look real, but useless if he tried to use them. Olivia nodded. And we make sure he sees us destroying the originals. It could work, but it's risky. Not as risky as doing nothing, Nathan countered. Every day that passes gives Richard more time to plan his next move against us. They spent the afternoon preparing their trap, creating convincing decoys while securing the real evidence in an encrypted cloud account accessible only to Olivia's most trusted attorney. Nathan called Richard, arranging a meeting for that evening at the lighthouse where James had proposed to Patricia 35 years earlier. How poetic, Richard had commented. Coming full circle, are we? As sunset approached, Nathan knelt beside Lily's bed for her nap time story. She clutched Mr. Whiskers, recently restuffed and sewn back together, the micro SD card now safely extracted. Daddy, are we in danger? Lily asked suddenly. Nathan hesitated, caught off guard by her perceptiveness. What makes you ask that, Princess? Everyone's acting strange, and those men keep watching the house, and you look worried like when I was sick in the hospital. Nathan smoothed her hair back from her forehead. Some grown-up problems came up that I need to fix. But you don't need to worry. That's my job. Is it about Mommy? Because I had a dream about her last night. She was standing by the ocean, telling me everything would be okay. Nathan swallowed hard. Your mom loved you very much. She wanted us to be safe and happy. I know. Lily's small fingers traced the stitching on Mr. Whiskers' face. She told me once that Mr. Whiskers would always protect me, even when she couldn't. I didn't understand then. But I think I do now. Nathan kissed her forehead. Your mom was the sharpest person I ever knew, and you're just like her. As Lily drifted off to sleep, Nathan met Olivia and Patricia in the living room. It's time. The lighthouse stood stark against the darkening sky, its beams sweeping across the turbulent Atlantic waters below. Nathan arrived first as planned, carrying a briefcase containing the decoy evidence. Richard was already waiting, two men flanking him at a discreet distance. I was beginning to think you wouldn't show, Richard said, his voice carrying over the wind and crashing waves. I had to make sure Lily was safe. Richard smiled thinly. Always the devoted father. James would have been the same, I imagine. It's the one quality I respected in him, his loyalty to those he loved, misplaced though it was. I've brought what you wanted, Nathan said, patting the briefcase. Everything Rebecca collected. All the originals. And the copies? There are no copies. This is everything. Richard studied him carefully. You expect me to believe that? Rebecca was nothing if not thorough. She would have had backups. She did, in a safety deposit box. We emptied it this morning. Richard's eyes narrowed. And Olivia? Where does she fit into this arrangement? I'm right here, Olivia said, emerging from the shadows, with a proposal you won't want to refuse. She outlined her offer, her permanent departure from Bancroft Industries in New York, in exchange for Nathan and Lily's safety. Richard listened, his expression calculating. And why would you make such a sacrifice for a janitor and his brat? Olivia's expression hardened. Because unlike you, I have a conscience. And because James Bancroft was the only person in that entire family who ever showed me real kindness. Richard laughed. Conscience. Such an inconvenient thing. He turned to Nathan. Open the briefcase. Show me what my daughter thought was worth dying for. Nathan complied, spreading documents on the hood of Richard's car. The wind immediately caught several papers, sending them fluttering toward the cliff edge. Careful! Richard lunged for the escaping documents, gathering them quickly. While he was distracted, Olivia subtly activated her phone, sending a prearranged signal. Within moments, FBI agents emerged from concealed positions surrounding them. Richard Maxwell, the lead agent announced, you're under arrest for the murders of James Bancroft and Rebecca Reed, attempted murder of Olivia Bancroft, conspiracy, fraud, and obstruction of justice. Richard's face contorted with rage as agents handcuffed him. This is absurd. You have nothing on me. Actually, Nathan said, we have everything. The real evidence is already with the FBI. This? He gestured to the scattered papers. This was just to get you here. You'll regret this, Richard snarled as agents led him toward waiting vehicles. You have no idea who you're dealing with. The Bancroft reach goes further than you can imagine. As Richard was placed in a police car, Patricia stepped forward from where she'd been waiting out of sight. Hello, Richard. Remember me? The color drained from Richard's face. Patricia, that's impossible. You're dead. Rumors of my death were greatly exaggerated, she said calmly. I've spent 20 years gathering evidence against you, and now, finally, James can rest in peace. The police car drove away, taking Richard to face justice after 35 years of impunity. Nathan, Olivia, and Patricia stood by the lighthouse, watching until the taillights disappeared into the distance. It's not over, Olivia warned. Richard has powerful friends. They'll fight this every step of the way. Let them, Nathan said firmly. We have the truth on our side. Patricia placed a hand on her son's shoulder. Emis would be so proud of you. As they turned to leave, Nathan's phone rang. Mrs. Rodriguez, her voice frantic. Nathan, someone broke into the beach house. We're safe. We hid in the panic room like Olivia showed us. But they took things, searched everywhere. Lily, is she okay? Yes, she's right here, scared but not hurt. Nathan's relief was short-lived as Mrs. Rodriguez continued. But Nathan, they seemed to be looking for something specific. They kept asking about a bear. They took Mr. Whiskers. Nathan froze. They know, somehow they know about the micro SD card. Olivia was already on her phone calling her security team. We need to get back to the house now. The drive back to the Hamptons was tense, Nathan's mind racing with implications. Richard must have had a backup plan, someone to continue if he was caught. The Bancroft family has always protected its interests, Olivia agreed grimly. Richard is just the most visible enforcer. When they arrived at the beach house, Olivia's security team had already secured the perimeter. Lily ran to Nathan the moment he entered, throwing herself into his arms. They took Mr. Whiskers, Daddy. Bad men came and took him. Nathan held her tightly. It's okay, Princess. Mr. Whiskers did his job. He protected you, just like Mommy said he would. Will we get him back? I don't know, sweetheart, but I promise we'll get you a new bear if we don't. Lily shook her head firmly. I don't want a new one. Mr. Whiskers is special. Mommy gave him to me. Over Lily's head, Nathan exchanged glances with Olivia and Patricia. Even without the micro SD card, the intruder's actions confirmed one thing. Richard's co-conspirators were still active, still dangerous. We can't stay here, Olivia decided. If they found this place, it's not secure anymore. Where can we go that's safe? Nathan asked. Patricia stepped forward. I might have an answer. When I went into hiding, I established connections with people who specialize in disappearing, people who understand how to hide from powerful enemies. You want us to go into witness protection? Nathan asked. Not officially, but something similar. A safe house where you and Lily can stay while the case against Richard proceeds. Somewhere not connected to the Bancrofts or Maxwell in any way. Nathan looked at Lily, now dozing against his shoulder, exhausted by fear and excitement. How long would we need to hide? Until Richard's trial concludes, Olivia said. Maybe longer, depending on how many of his associates are implicated. We're talking about dismantling a conspiracy that's operated for over 3 decades. I can't just disappear with Lily indefinitely. She needs stability, school, a normal life. Patricia squeezed his hand. I know it seems impossible now, but think about what's at stake. This isn't just about justice for James and Rebecca anymore. It's about breaking a cycle of corruption and violence that could otherwise continue for another generation. Nathan carried Lily to a bedroom, tucking her into bed before rejoining the others. The beach house's living room now resembled a war room, with Olivia's security team reviewing surveillance footage and FBI agents documenting the break-in. The intruders knew exactly what they were looking for, the lead FBI agent reported. They went straight for the child's room, took only the stuffed bear and left. Professional job, minimal forensic evidence. They'll be disappointed when they tear it apart and find nothing, Olivia noted. But they'll know we have the evidence somewhere else, Nathan countered, and they'll keep coming until they find it. The lead FBI agent stepped forward. Mr. Reed, we can offer you and your daughter formal witness protection. New identities, relocation, the works. Nathan shook his head. No, I'm done running, done hiding. Richard took enough from me, my father, my wife, my mother for 20 years. I won't let him take my identity too. What are you suggesting? Olivia asked. We go on the offensive. Use the evidence we have not just against Richard, but against everyone involved. The entire network. Make it so public, so visible, that they can't touch us without confirming their guilt. Patricia looked worried. That's incredibly risky. So is hiding. There are no guarantees either way. Nathan paced the room. Lily deserves to grow up in a world where people like Richard don't get away with murder just because they're rich and powerful. Rebecca died fighting for that world. How can I do any less? A determined silence fell over the room. Finally, Olivia nodded. If we're doing this, we do it my way. Maximum security, maximum exposure. The whole story goes public tomorrow. Every news outlet, social media platform, law enforcement agency. By this time tomorrow, the Bancroft-Maxwell conspiracy will be the biggest scandal to hit New York in decades. As the others began implementing their plan, Nathan stepped outside onto the deck, gazing at the ocean. The lighthouse beam swept across the dark water in steady, predictable intervals, a navigation aid for those in peril. He thought about James, about Rebecca, about the courage it took to stand against powerful enemies when the cost of failure was so high. Tomorrow would bring new dangers, but for tonight, Lily was safe. And for the first time since learning his true identity, Nathan felt something like peace. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. Father and daughter, supported by the unlikely alliance of a Bancroft heiress and a mother returned from the dead. The truth buried for 35 years was finally coming to light. Dawn broke over the Atlantic, painting the Hampton sky in hues of pink and gold. Nathan hadn't slept, spending the night coordinating with Olivia's security team and FBI agents as they prepared for what would undoubtedly be the most dangerous day of their lives. Lily had finally fallen into an exhausted slumber around midnight, tears over the loss of Mr. Whiskers eventually giving way to sleep. Everything's in place, Olivia announced, entering the beach house's kitchen where Nathan sat nursing a cup of coffee. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, her usual polished appearance replaced by practical clothing and a determined expression. The evidence package has been delivered to every major news outlet, law enforcement agency, and regulatory body in New York. It goes public at noon. Patricia joined them, setting a fresh pot of coffee on the table. I've spoken with my contacts. Safe houses are ready in 3 different locations if we need them. Transportation arranged. Nathan nodded, his mind still on the previous night's break-in. Any leads on who took Mr. Whiskers? Security footage caught a partial license plate, Olivia replied. The FBI is running it now. But Nathan, we need to discuss something important. The break-in changes things. Richard may be in custody awaiting arraignment, but whoever took that bear is still out there. And clearly working with Richard, Patricia added. The timing is too perfect to be coincidental. Nathan ran a hand over his face. So what are you suggesting? We need to draw them out, Olivia said firmly. Make them believe we still have what they want. And how exactly do we do that? Olivia pulled out her phone, showing Nathan a doctored photograph of Mr. Whiskers with a visible lump in his stuffing. We leak this. Let them think we discovered what Rebecca hid, but removed it before they took the bear. They'll have to contact us. Using my daughter's toy as bait, Nathan said bitterly. This is exactly the kind of manipulation I'd expect from Richard. Sometimes you have to fight fire with fire, Patricia said gently. We're not Richard. Our goal isn't power or money. It's justice and safety. Before Nathan could respond, his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The bear was empty. Where is the real evidence? Central Park Boathouse. 10 a.m. Bring what we want or the next thing we take won't be a toy. Nathan showed them the message, his hands shaking with anger. They're threatening Lily. They're bluffing, Olivia insisted. They wouldn't risk harming her with Richard facing serious charges. It would only strengthen the case against him. Unless they're trying to silence all of us before the evidence goes public at noon, Patricia countered. Nathan checked his watch. It's 7:30 now. That gives us less than 3 hours to prepare. I'll have my security team scout the boathouse, Olivia said, already dialing. The FBI can position agents throughout the park. No, Nathan cut in. Too many people will attract attention. This needs to look legitimate or they'll bolt. I'll go alone. Absolutely not, Patricia and Olivia said simultaneously. I won't actually be alone, Nathan explained, but it needs to appear that way. We need to control the situation, choose the battlefield. After considerable debate, they developed a plan. Nathan would meet the unknown conspirators while wearing a concealed wire. FBI agents would maintain distance but be ready to move in. Olivia would monitor from a surveillance van, while Patricia remained at the beach house with Lily in additional security. As Nathan prepared to leave, he went to check on Lily, finding her already awake and drawing at a small desk in her room. Hey, princess, how did you sleep? Lily looked up, her expression serious beyond her years. I had a dream about Mommy again. She was looking for Mr. Whiskers, too. Nathan sat on the edge of the bed. I have to go out for a while. Grandma Patricia will stay with you. You're going to find Mr. Whiskers, aren't you? When Nathan hesitated, Lily continued, It's okay, Daddy. I know he's important. Mommy put something inside him that the bad men want. Nathan stared at his daughter in astonishment. How do you know that? Mommy told me, the night before the accident. She said if anything ever happened to her, Mr. Whiskers would protect us. She showed me where she put the special thing, but told me never to touch it unless it was an emergency. Why didn't you tell me this before? Lily's small shoulders lifted in a shrug. I forgot until yesterday when the bad men came, and Mommy made me promise not to tell anyone unless I had to. Her eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry I didn't protect Mr. Whiskers better. Nathan pulled her into a hug. You have nothing to be sorry for. You've been braver than any 7-year-old should ever have to be. Daddy? Lily pulled back to look at him. The bad men won't find anything in Mr. Whiskers. What do you mean? Mommy put 2 things in him, 1 in each eye. They only found the empty one. Nathan's heart raced. Are you saying there's something still hidden in Mr. Whiskers? In his other eye? Lily nodded solemnly. The real special thing. Mommy said it was the most important one. Do you know what it is? A tiny black square thing, like the memory card in your camera, but smaller. Nathan immediately called Olivia, explaining what Lily had revealed. The micro SD card we found might have been a decoy. Rebecca apparently hid something else in the other eye, something even more important. Which means whoever took the bear still has crucial evidence without realizing it, Olivia concluded. This changes everything. We need to recover that bear. The journey to Manhattan passed in tense silence. Nathan mentally rehearsed every possible scenario, every potential trap. He'd spent his adult life cleaning up other people's messes, fixing what was broken, maintaining what others took for granted. Now he needed those same skills: attention to detail, anticipation of problems, resourcefulness, to save his family. The Central Park boathouse sat picturesque against the lake, morning sunlight glinting off the water. Despite the pleasant autumn day, few tourists lingered nearby, a detail that immediately put Nathan on alert. The area should have been busier. "I count 3 suspicious individuals," came Olivia's voice through his concealed earpiece. "One at the cafe table to your right, one pretending to read on the bench by the water, and one inside the boathouse, all wearing lightweight jackets despite the chill, likely concealing weapons." Nathan maintained a casual pace, scanning his surroundings without appearing to do so. Years of being invisible as a janitor had taught him how to observe without being observed. "Mr. Reed," a well-dressed woman approached, her smile not reaching her cold eyes. "Thank you for coming. I'm Margaret Winters." Nathan recognized her immediately from the charity gala, the woman who had studied his face so intently, who had commented on his resemblance to someone. "Where's Mr. Whiskers?" he demanded. "Safe, as is the evidence you so cleverly concealed within. Or should I say, your late wife concealed." She gestured toward the boathouse. "Shall we discuss terms privately?" "I prefer it here, in the open." Margaret's smile tightened. "As you wish. It's quite simple, really. You will provide us with all copies of Rebecca's evidence. Sign a statement confirming the materials were fabricated as part of an extortion attempt against Richard Maxwell, and agree to leave New York permanently with your daughter. And in return, you get to live, both of you, with a generous relocation package of $5 million. Nathan pretended to consider the offer. "How do I know you'll honor this agreement when Richard didn't honor his arrangement with my mother? Because unlike Richard, I understand that loose ends are dangerous. Richard's mistake was letting your mother live, letting you grow up. I don't repeat others' errors." "You're on the Bancroft Foundation Board," Nathan realized aloud. "You've been part of this from the beginning. I protected the Bancroft legacy when your father threatened it, and I've continued to do so for 35 years. Margaret's voice remained conversational, as if discussing the weather rather than murder and conspiracy. "The Foundation's charitable work has helped thousands. Would you destroy all that over one man's foolish heart?" "You mean my father." James was brilliant but sentimental. He would have destroyed everything his family built over generations for a waitress and a bastard child. Nathan felt his anger rising but kept his expression neutral. "I need proof that you have the bear." Margaret nodded to someone behind Nathan. A man approached carrying a familiar worn teddy bear in a clear plastic bag. "As you can see, we have your daughter's precious toy. The micro SD card has been removed, of course. Quite clever of Rebecca to use such a hiding place." Nathan stared at Mr. Whiskers, noticing that only one eye had been removed, the same one they had already extracted the card from at the beach house. Lily had been right. They hadn't found the second hiding place. "If I agree to your terms, how does this work? You'll come with us to sign the necessary documents. Then we return to your daughter's location, collect her, and escort you both to the airport where a private jet awaits. By tonight, you'll be starting your new life far from New York. And the evidence that's already been distributed to the media?" Margaret's expression darkened slightly. "Will be discredited once your confession is public. Richard's legal team is already preparing motions to suppress evidence and challenging the arrest warrants. The judicial system works quite efficiently when properly motivated. I need to make a call first, to check on my daughter." "Of course." Margaret stepped back, giving him nominal privacy while remaining close enough to overhear. Nathan called the beach house, Patricia answering immediately. "Is Lily okay?" he asked, choosing his words carefully. "She's fine, playing on the beach with security watching. Everything on schedule here." "Good. I'm looking at Mr. Whiskers right now. Our friends were right. They only found the empty eye." He emphasized slightly, hoping Patricia would understand his coded message. "I may be bringing some colleagues back with me. Make sure Lily's ready for visitors." He ended the call, turning back to Margaret. Let's get this over with. Margaret led him toward a black SUV parked at the edge of the park. The two men who had been watching from a distance fell into step behind them. You know, Nathan said conversationally as they walked, facility management teaches you a lot about systems, how they work, how they break, how everything connects. The smallest overlooked detail can cause the biggest problems. Is there a point to this observation? Margaret asked. Rebecca used to say the same thing about interior design. She believes spaces reveal truths about the people who occupy them. What does it reveal about you, I wonder, that you've spent 35 years hiding in plain sight, pretending to run educational initiatives while actually orchestrating murder? Margaret stopped walking, studying him with newfound wariness. You're stalling. Nathan glanced at his watch. Just making conversation. We still have almost 2 hours before the evidence goes public. Something in his tone must have alerted her. Margaret's hand moved toward her purse, but before she could reach inside, FBI agents emerged from concealed positions throughout the park. Margaret Winters, the lead agent announced, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, obstruction of justice, and making terrorist threats. As agents surrounded them, one of Margaret's associates reached for a weapon. The park erupted in chaos, shouts, a gunshot, people scattering. Nathan dove for cover, his only thought to protect the bear that still contained vital evidence. When the chaos subsided moments later, Margaret and one associate were in custody. The third man had escaped in the confusion, taking the SUV and Mr. Whiskers with him. Track that vehicle, the FBI commander ordered as agents secured the scene. Nathan found Olivia running toward him from the surveillance van. Are you all right? The shooter? I'm fine, but they still have the bear. Olivia's phone rang. Her face paled as she listened. We need to get back to the Hamptons now, she said, ending the call. That was my security team. They've lost contact with the beach house. The helicopter ride to the Hamptons felt eternal, though it took less than 30 minutes. Nathan's mind raced with worst-case scenarios. The escaped associate must have called reinforcements, realized where Lily and Patricia were hiding. As they approached, Nathan could see multiple vehicles surrounding the beach house, police cars, ambulances, and a SWAT team van. No, he whispered, his heart sinking. The helicopter landed on the beach. Nathan was running before the skids fully touched down, pushing past a police officer who tried to stop him. Lily, he shouted, bursting through the door. Patricia! The beach house interior was in disarray, furniture overturned, glass broken, signs of a violent struggle. FBI agents were processing the scene, photographing evidence. Where's my daughter? Nathan demanded of the nearest agent. Where's Lily? Mr. Reed, the FBI commander approached. Your daughter is safe. She's in the guest house with medical personnel, being checked as a precaution. And Patricia? Minor injuries. She's with your daughter. Nathan ran to the guest house, finding Lily sitting on an examination table while a paramedic checked her over. Patricia sat nearby, a bandage on her forehead and her arm in a sling. Daddy! Lily jumped down, running to him. He caught her in his arms, holding her so tightly she squirmed. Too tight, Daddy. Sorry, Princess. He loosened his grip, examining her for injuries. Are you hurt? What happened? The bad men came, Lily said solemnly. They wanted to take me, but Grandma Patricia hit one with a frying pan. Then the security men came and there was a lot of shouting. Nathan looked to Patricia for clarification. She smiled weakly. Your daughter is summarizing accurately, if a bit simplistically. 3 armed men breached the perimeter. They were after Lily, not the evidence. I believe they intended to use her as leverage. How did they find us? They must have followed the FBI vehicles that came last night after the break-in, Olivia suggested, joining them. Or they had someone inside our security team. Did they get away? Olivia shook her head. 2 in custody, 1 dead. Your mother is surprisingly effective with kitchen implements. She glanced at Patricia with newfound respect. What about Mr. Whiskers? Lily asked. Did you find him, Daddy? Nathan hesitated. Not yet, Princess, but we will. Actually, Olivia interjected, there's been a development. She pulled out her phone, showing Nathan a traffic camera image of the escaped SUV running a red light in Manhattan. NYPD spotted the vehicle heading toward Bancroft Industries headquarters. They're in pursuit now. He's going to Richard, Nathan realized, probably hoping to use the evidence as leverage. Olivia checked her watch. We have just over an hour before the noon deadline. If we can recover Mr. Whiskers in the second micro SD card before then, we can add it to the evidence package, Nathan finished, making the case against Richard and his conspirators even stronger. I need to go with you, Patricia insisted, wincing as she stood. I know the Bancroft building inside and out. I can help navigate. You're injured, Nathan protested. It's a sprained wrist and a cut forehead. I've endured worse making sure you stayed safe these past 20 years. Her expression brooked no argument. Besides, I've waited 35 years to see Richard Maxwell answer for what he did to James. I won't miss it now. Nathan turned to Lily. Princess, I need you to stay here with the paramedics and FBI agents. They'll keep you safe while I go get Mr. Whiskers back. Lily studied him seriously. Promise you'll be careful? I already lost Mommy. I can't lose you too. Cross my heart, Nathan replied, making the gesture over his chest. I love you bigger than the sky and deeper than the ocean, Lily finished, hugging him tightly. The Bancroft Industries headquarters dominated the Manhattan skyline, 90 stories of glass and steel towering over the surrounding buildings. Nathan had cleaned its lobby floors countless times, invisible to the executives who passed him daily. Now he approached the same building with FBI agents flanking him, Olivia and Patricia at his side. The suspect's vehicle has been located in the executive parking garage, the FBI commander informed them. Building security has been alerted, but they're not responding to communications. Richard has loyalists throughout the company, Olivia explained. Many executives owe their positions to him. How do we get in without alerting them? Nathan asked. Patricia smiled slightly. The same way I used to watch over you, through the service entrances. She led them to a nondescript door at the rear of the building. Maintenance staff use key cards, but there's a manual override for emergencies. She pulled out a small tool and manipulated the electronic lock until it clicked open. Inside, the service corridor was deserted. Patricia navigated the labyrinthine back passages with the confidence of someone intimately familiar with the building's layout. Richard's office is on the 88th floor, she explained, as they entered a freight elevator. But first, we need to stop at the security center on the 3rd floor. We need to know exactly what we're walking into. The security center was staffed by 2 guards who reached for their weapons when the group entered unexpectedly. FBI agents quickly subdued them, securing the room. Pull up the executive floor cameras, Olivia ordered, leaning over the monitors. The security feeds showed unusual activity throughout the building. Armed men in suits, not regular security, patrolled the corridors. On the 88th floor, a group had gathered in Richard's corner office. There, Nathan pointed, the man from the park, and he's holding Mr. Whiskers. The camera angle showed the escaped associate gesturing emphatically while Richard Maxwell sat behind his desk. Despite his arrest the previous night, he'd been released on a technicality. A procedural error in the warrant had allowed his high-powered legal team to secure his temporary release while the prosecution refiled their paperwork. I can't believe he's walking free, Nathan muttered. He's not free, the FBI commander clarified. He's under surveillance and restricted from leaving the city. The judge granted limited bail with electronic monitoring only because the prosecution's paperwork contained a clerical error that his attorneys exploited. It's temporary. The new arrest warrants are being processed now. Look how they're examining the bear, Patricia observed. They're trying to find the second micro SD card. We need to move now before they find it, Nathan insisted. How do we get up there without being detected? Patricia studied the building schematics displayed on another monitor. The executive floor has a separate express elevator that bypasses security checkpoints. We can access it through Richard's private entrance in the parking garage. Too obvious, Olivia countered. They'll be watching that. What about the maintenance shaft? Nathan suggested, pointing to the building plans. I've used it to access the executive floors when cleaning. It runs directly behind Richard's office. Patricia nodded approvingly. James helped design this building. He insisted on maintenance access to every floor, even the executive level. Richard probably doesn't even know it exists. They formulated a rapid plan. While FBI agents secured a judge's authorization to enter the premises with a legitimate search warrant, Nathan would access the maintenance shaft with Olivia and two agents, emerging directly into Richard's office. Patricia would coordinate from the security center, guiding them through the building's systems. "This is facility management at its finest," Nathan remarked as they prepared to move out. "Knowing the building better than the people who own it." The maintenance shaft was narrow and dusty, lit only by emergency lighting every few floors. Nathan led the way, counting levels as they climbed the metal ladder that seemed to extend endlessly upward. 85, 86, 87, Nathan whispered, his arms burning from the exertion. 88. This is it. The access panel opened into a small utility closet adjacent to Richard's private bathroom. Through the thin wall, they could hear voices from the main office. "It has to be here somewhere," Richard was saying, his voice tight with frustration. "Rebecca wouldn't have created a decoy without having the real evidence somewhere." "We've torn the bear apart," another voice responded. "There's nothing else hidden in it." "Then we destroy it all. The bear, the micro SD card we found, everything. Make sure no trace remains." Nathan peered through a small ventilation grill, assessing the situation. Richard sat behind his massive desk, flanked by three armed men. The associate from the park stood nearby, holding the dismembered remains of Mr. Whiskers. The stuffing was scattered across the desk, both glass eyes removed and broken open. "They've already destroyed the second eye," Nathan whispered to Olivia. "If Lily was right about a second micro SD card, it might already be too late," she finished grimly. Nathan's phone vibrated with a text from Patricia. "FBI has warrant in hand. Building security responding to main entrance. Additional agents securing all exits. Legal team standing by. Move in 30 seconds. Nathan relayed the information to Olivia and the agents. They drew their weapons, prepared to breach. "Wait," Olivia whispered suddenly. "Look at Richard's hands." Through the grill, Nathan could see Richard examining something tiny between his fingers. A black micro SD card, intact despite the destruction of the bear's eye. He had found what they were looking for. "That's it," Nathan confirmed. "The second card." As they watched, Richard attempted to snap the card in half, but its small size made it difficult to break. Instead, he placed it on his desk and reached for a heavy crystal paperweight to crush it. "Now," Nathan hissed, pushing through the bathroom door into the main office. The FBI agents burst in simultaneously, weapons drawn. "FBI, this is a federal raid. Freeze. Put your hands where we can see them." Richard's associates reached for their weapons, but the agent's superior position gave them the advantage. Within moments, two of the armed men were subdued. The park associate attempted to flee through a side door, but was cut off by additional FBI agents arriving from the main corridor. Richard, however, remained seated, the paperweight still in his hand, poised above the micro SD card. "It's over, Richard," Nathan said, approaching the desk cautiously. "Your associates are in custody. Margaret Winters is providing evidence against you to reduce her own charges. The evidence goes public in 20 minutes. Richard's eyes narrowed. "You look just like him, you know. James had that same self-righteous expression when he threatened to expose me." His hand remained steady above the micro SD card. "One simple movement in this evidence disappears forever." "It won't matter," Olivia interjected. "We already have enough to convict you. This is just the final nail in your coffin." "Perhaps, but I'm a resourceful man. Legal proceedings can be delayed for years. Evidence can be challenged. Witnesses intimidated." Richard's gaze shifted to Nathan. "Like your wife." Nathan fought to maintain his composure. "You murdered Rebecca. I eliminated a threat to the Bancroft legacy, just as I did with James. Just as I'll continue to do with anyone who threatens what I've built." Richard's voice was calm, almost conversational. "You should thank me, Nathan. The character you developed through hardship made you a better man than you would have been as a pampered Bancroft heir." "That wasn't your decision to make," Nathan replied evenly. "My father had the right to acknowledge me, to be part of my life. Rebecca had the right to grow old with me, to watch Lily grow up." "Rights," Richard scoffed. "The world doesn't operate on rights. It operates on power. Those who have it shape reality for those who don't." "Maybe that's been true until now," Nathan conceded. "But today, that changes. Today, the truth comes out, no matter what you do to that micro SD card." Richard's hand wavered slightly, the paperweight still suspended above the desk. For a moment, the room was silent. The power dynamic between janitor and corporate titan reversed at last. Then, with surprising speed for a man his age, Richard lunged across the desk, not to destroy the card, but to grab for the letter opener lying among the scattered stuffing. He raised it toward Nathan with deadly intent. The FBI agents shouted warnings, but it was Olivia who moved fastest, tackling Nathan aside as Richard's makeshift weapon slashed through the air where he had stood. Richard's momentum carried him forward, off balance. He stumbled, the letter opener still gripped in his hand, and fell against the floor-to-ceiling window behind his desk. The impact created a spiderweb of cracks in the glass. "Richard, don't move," an agent warned, approaching cautiously. But Richard, seeing his last opportunity for escape vanishing, struck the weakened glass with the letter opener. The window shattered, and for one horrifying moment, Richard Maxwell stood framed against the open air, 88 stories above Manhattan. "You haven't won," he said, looking directly at Nathan. "The Bancroft legacy is bigger than any of us." Then, before anyone could reach him, he stepped backward into empty space. Nathan rushed to the broken window, looking down with horror, but Richard was already gone, fallen into the gathering crowd below. In the stunned silence that followed, Nathan turned back to the desk. The micro SD card still lay where Richard had placed it, untouched by the chaos. He carefully picked it up, this tiny object that had cost so many lives. "It's over," Olivia said quietly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Really over." Nathan nodded, unable to find words. 35 years of secrets, lies, and murder ended in a moment of desperate final defiance. His phone rang. Patricia from the security center. "Nathan, are you all right?" The camera showed. "We're fine," he assured you. "We have the second micro SD card." "Richard," he hesitated. "Richard won't be threatening anyone ever again." As FBI agents secured the scene and collected evidence, Nathan stared at the remains of Mr. Whiskers scattered across Richard's desk. The beloved bear that had been Lily's connection to Rebecca, now destroyed like so much else in this tragic story. Carefully, Nathan gathered every scrap of fabric, every tuft of stuffing, placing them in an evidence bag. Lily would be heartbroken, but at least now she would be safe. They all would. "Nathan," Olivia called softly from Richard's computer, "I think you should see this." She had inserted the micro SD card into Richard's computer. On the screen was a video file. Rebecca, sitting in the same hotel room as the previous recording, but this time holding something in her hands. "If you're watching this," she began, "then you found both cards. This one contains something the other doesn't. The full truth about the Bancroft family and everyone involved in covering up James's murder." Rebecca held up a familiar stuffed bear, Mr. Whiskers, new and intact. "This bear will protect our daughter in ways I no longer can. But Nathan, please tell Lily something for me. Tell her that the real Mr. Whiskers isn't the toy itself, it's the love we put into it. As long as she remembers that, she'll never really lose him." As the video continued, detailing names, dates, and criminal activities spanning decades, Nathan felt tears streaming down his face. Even in her final acts, Rebecca had thought of Lily's emotional needs alongside the evidence that would bring justice. "The world will know the truth in 10 minutes, Olivia said, checking her watch. "There's no stopping it now." Nathan nodded, pocketing the remains of Mr. Whiskers. "Let's go home. Lily's waiting." 3 weeks after Richard Maxwell's death, the media frenzy had barely begun to subside. The story dominated headlines across the country. Bancroft empire built on murder. 35-year cover-up exposed. Janitor heir to fortune. Every day brought newer revelations as the evidence Rebecca had gathered led to additional arrests, investigations into corporate fraud, and the unraveling of decades of corruption. Nathan stood at the window of his modest Queens apartment, watching the autumn rain streak down the glass. The familiar surroundings felt different now, temporary, transitional, as if the apartment itself understood they would soon be leaving. "Daddy, look, I finished!" Lily called from the kitchen table where she'd been working on a craft project. She held up a newly stitched teddy bear, its fabric mismatched but lovingly assembled. Patricia had helped her gather the materials and taught her basic sewing techniques, a skill passed down through generations. "It's beautiful, Princess," Nathan said, examining her handiwork. "What are you going to name him?" Lily considered the question seriously. I think Whiskers Jr., so he knows he's part of the family. Nathan swallowed the lump in his throat. Though they had recovered every piece of Mr. Whiskers from Richard's office, the beloved bear had been damaged beyond repair. Explaining this to Lily had been one of the hardest conversations of his life. I think that's perfect, he said, kissing the top of her head. Patricia entered from the bedroom carrying a small box of photographs. At 63, she moved with the energy of someone decades younger, as if freed from the weight of secrecy she'd carried for so long. I found these in storage, she said, setting the box on the table. Pictures of James I thought you might want to see. Nathan joined them at the table as Patricia spread out faded photographs. James Bancroft in his 20s, smiling broadly at the camera. James and Patricia at the beach. James painting a nursery, preparing for a son he would never know. You look so much like him, Patricia said softly. Not just your face, but the way you move, the way you think through problems. James was always most comfortable working with his hands, building, fixing, creating. The Bancroft board hated that he preferred spending time in the workshop rather than the boardroom. Nathan picked up a photo of his father standing proudly beside a handcrafted wooden cradle. He made this for me? Patricia nodded, tears in her eyes. He finished it the week before he died. Said his son deserved something made with love, not just bought with money. Lily leaned against Nathan's arm, studying the photographs with intense curiosity. Did my grandpa James like teddy bears too? Patricia smiled. He had a collection when he was a boy. In fact, she rummaged through the box and pulled out another photograph, a young James holding a teddy bear remarkably similar to Mr. Whiskers. This was his favorite. I think that's why Rebecca chose a bear for you, Lily. She found this photo among the evidence she was gathering. The doorbell interrupted their moment of reflection. Olivia Bancroft stood in the hallway, smartly dressed in a business suit despite the rain, a leather portfolio tucked under her arm. Am I interrupting? She asked, noting the photographs spread across the table. Not at all, Nathan assured her. We were just learning more about James. Olivia smiled at Lily. And who's this handsome fellow? She asked, gesturing to the newly made bear. This is Whiskers Jr., Lily announced proudly. I made him myself. Well, Grandma Patricia helped with the hard parts. Excellent craftsmanship, Olivia said seriously, examining the bear with the gravity one might afford a fine art piece. He has character. Since Richard's death, Olivia had become a fixture in their lives, first as an ally in navigating the legal aftermath, then increasingly as a friend. Despite her wealth and status, she carried herself with a new humility, as if her uncle's example had shown her a different path. I bring news, she said, opening her portfolio on the table. The board has completed its emergency session. In light of recent events, they voted to restructure the entire Bancroft Foundation and corporate leadership. And what does that mean for us? Nathan asked, though he already suspected the answer. James's will has been located and authenticated. As his sole biological heir, you are entitled to 40% of Bancroft Industries and an equal share of the family trust. She slid a document across the table. Approximately $650 million, plus ongoing dividends and property holdings. Nathan stared at the figure, unable to fully comprehend the amount. Just months ago, he'd been counting quarters for laundry, skipping meals to afford Lily's school supplies. There's more, Olivia continued. The board wants you to take a seat as a director. They feel, and I agree, that the company needs your perspective. My perspective as a janitor, you mean, Nathan said, a hint of challenge in his voice. As someone who understands the value of honest work, Olivia corrected, as someone who won't be corrupted by power because he's seen the damage it can cause, as James Bancroft's son. Nathan exchanged glances with Patricia, whose expression remained carefully neutral. She had made it clear from the beginning that this decision was his alone. I'll consider it, he said finally, but I need to focus on Lily first, on giving her stability after everything that's happened. Of course, Olivia agreed. Which brings me to my other news. The renovation of James's old house in Greenwich is complete. It's ready whenever you are. Shortly after Richard's death, Olivia had shown Nathan the property, a comfortable farmhouse on 10 acres that James had purchased secretly, planning to live there with Patricia and their child, away from the Bancroft dynasty. After his murder, the property had been absorbed into the family holdings, its history and purpose forgotten until Rebecca uncovered the deed during her investigation. I still don't know if we should move there, Nathan admitted. It feels like living in a shrine, Patricia suggested gently. Something like that. I never knew him. Living in the house he intended for us seems... It's just a house, Nathan, Patricia said. A beautiful one, yes, and filled with James's dreams for us. But it's not a shrine unless you make it one. It could just be a home, the home he wanted for his family. Lily, who had been listening intently, spoke up. Can I have a garden there, like in the pictures of Grandma Patricia's house in Portland? You can have anything you want, Princess, Nathan assured her. Then I think we should go. Mr. Whiskers Jr. needs a garden to play in. The adults exchanged smiles at her simple wisdom. Out of the mouths of babes, Nathan thought. There's one more thing, Olivia said, pulling a final document from her portfolio. The board has agreed to establish the Rebecca Reed Memorial Scholarship for interior design students from underprivileged backgrounds. 5 full scholarships annually, in perpetuity. Nathan felt a wave of emotion wash over him. She would have loved that. She always said her design professor changed her life by believing in her talent. Now she'll do the same for others, Olivia said softly. After Olivia departed, Nathan helped Lily prepare for bed, while Patricia made calls to finalize the moving arrangements. The apartment felt increasingly like a chrysalis they had outgrown, a necessary shelter during difficult times, but not where they belonged anymore. Daddy? Lily asked as he tucked her in. Will I still see Mrs. Rodriguez when we move to the new house? Of course, she can visit anytime, and we'll come back to visit her too. Good, she makes the best empanadas. Lily clutched Whiskers Jr. to her chest. Daddy, is Mommy happy now that the bad men can't hurt anyone anymore? Nathan sat on the edge of her bed, choosing his words carefully. I think your mom would be very happy knowing you're safe and that the truth came out. That's what she wanted most. Do you think she can see us from heaven? I do, and I think she's incredibly proud of how brave you've been. Lily nodded, satisfied with this answer. Can I bring Mommy's picture to put in my new room? The one where she's laughing at the beach? Absolutely. We'll bring all our special memories with us. He kissed her forehead. Sweet dreams, Princess. I love you bigger than the sky. And deeper than the ocean, Lily murmured, already drifting towards sleep. Later that night, Nathan sat with Patricia at the kitchen table, a pot of tea between them, planning the logistics of their impending move. The transition from poverty to wealth presented practical challenges neither had anticipated: banking arrangements, security considerations, legal frameworks to protect Lily's future. I spoke with the family therapist today, Nathan said, refilling their cups. She thinks Lily is adjusting remarkably well, all things considered. Children are resilient, Patricia observed, and Lily has something many don't: complete security in your love. That gives her a foundation to handle change. I worry about how this money will affect her. I don't want her to become... Nathan trailed off, unsure how to articulate his concerns. Entitled? Spoiled? Disconnected from reality, Patricia supplied. That won't happen if you don't let it. James was wealthy his entire life, yet he valued people for their character, not their bank accounts. That's why he fell in love with a waitress from Queens. Nathan smiled at his mother's pragmatism. I still can't believe you've been watching over me all these years. That day at the hospital when Lily was born, you were really there? Patricia nodded, her eyes misting. In the waiting room, I wore a wig and glasses. When they wheeled Rebecca past with the baby, I pretended to be another patient's relative. I saw Lily when she was less than an hour old. All those years hiding in plain sight. It kept you alive, Patricia said simply. I would have done anything to protect you, just as you would for Lily. The next morning dawned clear and bright, the autumn rain giving way to crisp sunshine. Nathan woke early, already accustomed to the schedule of a working man despite no longer needing to rush to a job. Some habits, he reflected, would take time to change, if they changed at all. He was making coffee when his phone rang. Olivia, her voice tense. Have you seen the news this morning? No, why? Turn it on, now. Nathan flipped on the small television they kept in the kitchen. Breaking news banners scrolled across every channel. Maxwell associate found dead. Key witness in Bancroft case apparent suicide. Cover-up continues? The man who had escaped from Central Park with Mr. Whiskers, identified as Stephen Hargrove, Richard's head of security, had been found dead in his jail cell despite being on suicide watch. Officials called it an apparent suicide, but the timing raised immediate questions. "This isn't a coincidence," Olivia said when Nathan called her back. Hargrove was scheduled to testify today about Richard's broader network. He knew names, dates, specific criminal activities spanning decades. "You think someone got to him?" "I know they did. The question is who." "Richard's dead. Margaret's cooperating with authorities to reduce her sentence. This suggests there are others involved we haven't identified yet." Nathan glanced toward Lily's bedroom, still sleeping peacefully. "Should we be concerned about our safety?" "I've already doubled your security detail, and the Greenwich property has state-of-the-art protection systems. But, Nathan, we need to be careful. This isn't over." After hanging up, Nathan briefed Patricia on the development. Her expression grew grave as she absorbed the implications. "The Bancroft connections run deep," she said. "Richard wasn't acting alone all these years. He had helpers, enablers, people who benefited from keeping the family's secrets. But who would still be motivated to silence witnesses now that Richard is gone?" Patricia considered the question. Someone with a lot to lose. Someone who might be implicated by Hargrove's testimony. Their speculation was interrupted by Lily emerging from her bedroom, rubbing sleep from her eyes, Whiskers Jr. tucked under her arm. "Morning, Daddy. Morning, Grandma. Can we have pancakes?" Nathan pushed his concerns aside, determined to maintain normalcy for his daughter. "Pancakes it is, Princess, with blueberries or chocolate chips." "Both, please." While Lily ate breakfast, Nathan received another call, this time from Eleanor Bancroft, Victoria's sister, and a senior member of the Bancroft board. They had met briefly during the chaotic aftermath of Richard's death, the elderly woman expressing shock and dismay at the revelations about her family's business practices. "Nathan, I hope I'm not calling too early," she began, her aristocratic voice slightly frail but determined. "Not at all, Ms. Bancroft. What can I do for you?" "I wanted to invite you, Lily and Patricia, to tea this afternoon. There are matters we should discuss in person, particularly in light of this morning's troubling news." Nathan hesitated. The Bancroft family had largely kept their distance during the past weeks, their attorneys handling necessary communications. A direct invitation seemed significant. "May I ask what specifically you wish to discuss?" "Your safety, for one thing, and some family history I believe you should know. Things about James that only his siblings were privy to." After consulting with Patricia, Nathan accepted the invitation. Security arrangements were made, and by mid-afternoon they were being escorted into Eleanor Bancroft's Upper East Side apartment, an elegant pre-war residence filled with antiques and family photographs. Eleanor greeted them in the sitting room, rising with the aid of a cane. At 82, she remained sharp-eyed and formidable despite her physical frailty. "Thank you for coming," she said, extending her hand to Nathan. "Especially under these circumstances. Please sit." A housekeeper served tea and cookies, making a special fuss over Lily, who was wide-eyed at the formal setting but politely remembered her manners. "What a lovely bear," Eleanor remarked, nodding toward Whiskers Jr. "Did you make him yourself?" "Yes, ma'am," Lily replied, "because the bad men broke my old one. But Daddy says the love is the same, just in a new body." Eleanor's expression softened. "Your daddy is very wise." She turned to Nathan. "She has Rebecca's directness. It's refreshing." Once they were settled with tea, Eleanor addressed the purpose of their meeting. "I'll be blunt, Nathan. Stephen Hargrove's death wasn't a suicide. It was a message and a warning." "From whom?" Patricia asked. "That's what we need to determine. The Bancroft family has extensive business connections, some legitimate, others less so. Richard maintained relationships with people who operate in shadows, people who might fear exposure now that his protection is gone." Nathan set down his teacup. "Why are you telling us this?" "Because your family," Eleanor said simply. "James was my little brother. I loved him dearly, disagreed with how he was treated, but lacked the courage to stand against Victoria and Richard. That failure has haunted me for 35 years. She rose slowly and crossed to a bureau, retrieving a small wooden box. "This belonged to James. He kept it in my safekeeping shortly before his death, as if he suspected what might happen." Nathan accepted the box, opening it carefully. Inside lay a leather-bound journal, a pocket watch, and several small keys. His personal journal details his suspicions about Richard's illegal activities. The watch was our father's, meant to be passed to James's son. Eleanor's gaze lingered on the keys. Those open safety deposit boxes in various banks around the city. James was methodical in gathering evidence against Richard even then. He was building a case, Nathan realized. Yes, and I believe that's what finally sealed his fate. Richard discovered he was collecting documents. Eleanor turned to Patricia. James told me about you, about the baby. He was so happy, so determined to acknowledge his son regardless of the family's objections. Patricia blinked back tears. He wanted to marry me. I thought the family simply disapproved of me being from Queens, being a waitress. I never knew about the criminal aspects. Few did. James was the first to connect the dots. Eleanor looked directly at Nathan, which brings me to why I asked you here today. I believe James hid additional evidence that could identify who's behind Hargrove's death. After 35 years, Patricia asked skeptically, the Bancroft criminal connections haven't changed much over the decades. The same power brokers, the same corrupt officials, perhaps now they're children or protégés. If we can uncover who Richard was protecting all those years ago, we might identify who still has a motive to silence witnesses today, Nathan finished. Eleanor nodded. Precisely, and I believe the answers lie in those safety deposit boxes. The next morning found Nathan, Patricia, and Olivia at First National Bank, the first location indicated by James's keys. The process of accessing a long-dormant safety deposit box proved complex, requiring death certificates, proof of identity, and legal documentation. By noon, however, they stood in a private viewing room as the box was finally opened. Inside lay a sealed envelope, addressed simply, "For my son," a small tape recorder with cassettes, and photographs of Richard meeting with various individuals, some in business attire, others with the unmistakable appearance of organized crime figures. James was building a RICO case, Olivia observed, examining the photographs. These show systematic connections between Bancroft Industries and known criminal enterprises. Nathan opened the envelope addressed to him, finding a letter written in a bold, decisive hand. To my son, if you're reading this, I've been unable to protect you as a father should. For that, I'm deeply sorry. Know that I loved you from the moment I learned of your existence, and everything I've done since has been to secure your future and safety. Richard Maxwell has corrupted the Bancroft legacy, using our family's resources and connections to facilitate money laundering, racketeering, and fraud. The evidence I've gathered implicates not only Richard, but his associates in law enforcement, banking, and government. Most dangerous among them is Judge Martin Reynolds, who has systematically quashed investigations and sealed records at Richard's request. Reynolds controls a network of corrupt officials who maintain the facade of legitimacy while enabling criminal enterprises to operate. I've distributed evidence across multiple locations as insurance. This is only part of what I've gathered. The rest awaits at the locations corresponding to the remaining keys. Trust no one associated with the Bancroft companies without verification. The corruption runs deep, and loyalty is purchased rather than earned. You deserved a father who could watch you grow, teach you, protect you. Though I may not have that privilege, know that you were loved, wanted, and worth fighting for. With all my love, your father, James Bancroft. Nathan passed the letter to Patricia and Olivia, his mind racing with implications. Judge Martin Reynolds, is he still alive? Olivia was already searching on her phone. Martin Reynolds died in 2012, but his son Conrad Reynolds is currently chief judge of the New York Southern District. He's presided over several cases involving Bancroft subsidiaries. And he would have had the authority to order Hargrove's cell opened, Patricia noted. We need to check the other safety deposit boxes, Nathan decided. If James collected evidence against Reynolds Sr., it might implicate his son as well. By late afternoon, they had accessed 2 more locations, each yielding additional documentation of the criminal network James had uncovered. The evidence was damning, financial records showing money laundering through Bancroft subsidiaries, transcripts of conversations between Richard and Judge Reynolds discussing case outcomes, photographs of meetings with known criminal figures. This is enough to reopen dozens of cases, Olivia said as they examined the materials at her office. Enough to expose corruption at multiple levels of government and law enforcement. And enough to put a target on our backs, Nathan added grimly. If Conrad Reynolds is continuing his father's work, he has every reason to silence us. Patricia had been reviewing the cassette tapes from the first box, listening through headphones. She suddenly removed them, her expression troubled. You need to hear this, she said, rewinding the tape. She pressed play, and James Bancroft's voice filled the room, young, determined, but tinged with worry. October 15th, 1989. Judge Reynolds visited the house today, ostensibly to discuss the East Side Development Project. Once alone, he made it clear that my personal situation could cause problems for pending Bancroft cases in his court. When I refused to discuss Patricia or the baby, he mentioned how unfortunate it would be if something happened to them. The threat was unmistakable. I've accelerated my evidence gathering. Reynolds doesn't realize I recorded our conversation today, including his explicit acknowledgement of manipulating case outcomes for Richard. I'm making arrangements for Patricia and the baby's safety. If anything happens to me, the evidence must reach the proper authorities. The recording continued, detailing specific criminal activities, dates, and participants. Most troubling were James's final words, recorded just 2 days before his death. Richard knows I've been collecting evidence. Someone in my inner circle has betrayed me. I'm moving the most damning materials to Eleanor's care tomorrow. If you're hearing this, I wasn't successful. Protect my family at all costs. The tape clicked off, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. He knew, Patricia whispered. He knew they were coming for him. And now they're coming for us, Nathan said, his thoughts immediately turning to Lily. We need to consolidate this evidence and get it to federal authorities immediately. Someone outside the New York jurisdiction, beyond Reynolds' influence. I have contacts at the FBI field office in Boston, Olivia offered. People I trust who have no connection to the Bancroft cases. Nathan nodded. Make the call and arrange for additional security at the apartment and at Lily's school. I don't want her left unprotected for a moment. As Olivia stepped out to make arrangements, Patricia touched Nathan's arm. There's something else we should consider. The Greenwich property, James's house. If he was as thorough as these safety deposit boxes suggest, he might have hidden evidence there as well, Nathan finished. We need to search it thoroughly before we move in. That evening, Nathan called Eleanor Bancroft to update her on their discoveries. Her reaction confirmed their suspicions. Conrad Reynolds, she sighed. I feared as much. He's been a fixture at Bancroft functions for years, always solicitous, always present when significant legal matters arose. Victoria trusted him implicitly. We're securing the evidence James collected and transferring it to federal authorities outside New York, Nathan explained, but we need to move quickly. I agree. And Nathan, check the lighthouse painting in the Greenwich house. James had a particular fondness for that piece. The following morning, Nathan, Patricia, and a team of security personnel arrived at the Greenwich property. The farmhouse stood peaceful in the autumn sunlight, its restoration complete, but furnished minimally pending their move. Spread out, Nathan instructed the security team. Check the perimeter, then the outbuildings. We'll handle the main house. Inside, the home felt both strange and familiar, unknown yet somehow welcoming. James had designed it with family in mind, with generous spaces for gathering and quiet corners for reflection. In the main living room hung the painting Eleanor had mentioned, a lighthouse standing sentinel on rocky shores, remarkably similar to the one Olivia had bid on at the charity gala. Nathan carefully removed the painting from the wall, revealing a small wall safe behind it. Using the remaining key from James's box, he opened it to find a final collection of evidence, more extensive and explicit than anything they had discovered in the safety deposit boxes. This is it, Patricia said, reviewing the documents. The smoking gun connecting Reynolds, Richard, and organized crime figures. Financial records, transcribed conversations, photographs, everything needed to dismantle their entire network. Nathan's phone rang, Olivia, her voice urgent. The FBI team is en route from Boston. They'll meet you at the Greenwich house in approximately 30 minutes. We've found additional evidence here, Nathan told her. The complete picture of Richard's operation and Reynolds' involvement. There's something else, Olivia continued. Conrad Reynolds has recused himself from all Bancroft-related cases, effective immediately. He's reportedly leaving the country for health reasons. A sudden sabbatical in Switzerland. He's running, Nathan realized. It gets better. Margaret Winters has provided sworn testimony that Reynolds was directly involved in ordering Hargrove's death. Arrest warrants are being prepared. After ending the call, Nathan joined Patricia on the farmhouse's wraparound porch. The autumn afternoon was fading into evening, the property's 10 acres ablaze with fall colors. "It's really over," Patricia said softly. "After 35 years, James will finally have justice." "And what about you?" Nathan asked. "What happens now?" Patricia smiled, surveying the land that should have been her home decades ago. "Now I get to be a grandmother. Watch Lily grow up, make up for lost time with my son." "You could live here with us," Nathan suggested. "There's more than enough room." "I'd like that, at least until you get tired of having your mother underfoot." Nathan laughed. "After missing you for 20 years, not likely." As dusk settled over the property, Nathan found himself drawn to a small hilltop overlooking the house. From this vantage point, he could see the entire estate, the farmhouse with lights now glowing in its windows, the old barn being converted into a studio space, the stream that meandered through the back acreage. The sound of a car approaching drew his attention. Olivia's vehicle pulled into the drive, and he watched as Lily bounded out, racing across the lawn with Whiskers Jr. clutched in one arm. "Daddy," she called, spotting him on the hilltop. "Olivia picked me up from school. Is this really our new house? It's like a castle." Nathan descended to meet his daughter, swinging her into his arms. "What do you think, Princess? Could you be happy here?" Lily surveyed their surroundings with solemn consideration. "Does it have a good place for a garden?" "The best, and room for a tree house, too." Her face lit up. "A tree house? With a real ladder and everything?" "With a real ladder and everything." As they walked back toward the house, Olivia and Patricia waited on the porch, their figures silhouetted against the warm light spilling from inside. Nathan felt a sense of completion, of circles closing and new ones beginning. James had intended this place to be a sanctuary for his family, a home built on love rather than obligation or expectation. 35 years later, his wish was finally being fulfilled. "Daddy," Lila asked as they approached the house, "is this where Grandpa James wanted us to live?" "Yes, Princess. This is exactly where he wanted us to be." Lily nodded, satisfied with the answer. "Then I think he must be happy now, and Mommy too." Nathan kissed the top of her head, marveling at the wisdom that sometimes emerged from his 7-year-old. "I think you're right. I think they're both very happy." As they joined Patricia and Olivia on the porch, the four of them stood for a moment, taking in the peaceful tableau before them. The house, the land, the future stretching out with possibilities that had seemed impossible just months ago. "Welcome home," Patricia said softly. Nathan smiled, feeling for the first time the full weight of his inheritance. Not the money or the Bancroft name, but the legacy of a father who had loved him enough to fight for his future, and a mother who had sacrificed everything to keep him safe. That was the true fortune he would pass on to Lily. The knowledge that she was loved beyond measure, bigger than the sky and deeper than the ocean. "Yes," he agreed, opening the door to their new beginning. "Welcome home."